Go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talking About Balls. I am Justin George, joined as always by Kyle Price. We're a little late today, but we are here. We're ready to go. Thank you to George and to Zolt for getting this set up. What'd you say? Your mic, you sound a little off. I don't know if you have like something new connected.
No, I don't actually.
Yeah, there's like when you start talking, there's like background noise. It like sounds like you're standing in traffic when you start talking. When you're not, there's no noise. But as soon as you say something, there's like a weird sound that comes along with it.
Let me see what I can do. Hold on.
Well, Kyle toys with that. We are here. We are live. Yeah, sorry for the late start. We had a little bit of technical difficulties. George couldn't be with us tonight, so he set this up to do an automatic StreamYard thing, and it didn't work. So live and learn. That's what we do here on the show. With that being said, though, I'm going to do a couple things. We're going to do the intro. We're going to go over the week.
Sound better? No? So bad or not?
No, it's still, you get like this really bad feedback as soon as you start talking.
We're going to have to go off of my earbuds then. So give me a second.
Like as soon as you start saying a word, it like makes this like kind of sound that drowns you out completely. It's very strange.
What about now?
Clear as day.
Okay, well, so it must be the earbuds then. So I'm just going to speak through my normal microphone on the iMac, and we'll go from there. So I apologize. I guess multiple difficulties. So
I thought it was my headphones. I was like, that's why I switched them out because I was like, okay, something's wrong, and lo and behold,
it's okay. We'll make this work.
Sure.
I actually had a microphone. I bought a microphone that I was going to use, like kind of like yours. It's like a standalone. But then I forgot that MacBooks don't have the USB, so I have to get like the USB to C connection. So next time we stream, I'll have that. So little by little, we'll get there.
I have a MacBook, so my entire setup is just adapters and connectors and doing things like that. That's literally everything I have. But yeah, so I think we are live. I'm not seeing it on our page. Now I am. Okay, never mind. So it wasn't there before. Let me share the shit out of this. While we do that, we'll talk a little bit about the week that was. So we're here. I am back. 2 weeks it was, I should say. I am back from Detroit. Again, don't mind me. I'll be looking down while I share. I hate doing that during the show, but it must be done. But yeah, so we had the NFL draft. I was just there a couple of weeks ago. I got back from Detroit, and I had a really good time. We were going to do a show last Wednesday to recap everything, but it's the off season, so there's no rush. So Kyle was a little busy, so we pushed the show back for an extra week. Not a big deal.
Are you getting cold? You sound sniffly.
No, I'm a little congested today all of a sudden, but that's it. Like I feel completely fine. Maybe allergies. I don't even know if I have allergies, but it kind of feels like it. I apparently.
My card, because I don't have allergies like that. My car tells me when it's allergy season because of all the yellowness on the top of my car when I go out for work in the morning.
My car is a black car, but it looks like I'm a Steelers fan right now with how much yellow is on it.
Black, yellow, yeah.
It's disgusting. Yeah, so let's do this. I got the softness starts now. Thank you for watching. Gonna share the shit out of it. And then we will be ready to rock and roll, everybody.
All right, so we got comments here. Now, I know, can we share these comments? I don't think we can. No, there's no way for
we cannot because we're not the host.
Well, son of a bitch. There's another one.
Yeah, I was in the private chat by mistake, so I didn't even see that. So what's up, George? Thank you for checking in that situation with. So you guys very much. Nice to have a little 2-man team. Something goes wrong, takes about 5 minutes. We get it figured out. Not a big deal.
We got to figure out how to share comments though when someone's not around. That's the only other thing we have to figure out. But other than that, it's fine.
I imagine the only way to do that is if we're like hosting the show, if you will. So he'd have to give us access for that. Would be my guess.
All right, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, again, a learning curve. We'll go from there. But yeah, so I am back from the NFL draft. The draft was really cool. Detroit had a great hosting city. They did a really good job for the shit that they take. They are obviously, being from Cleveland, I don't feel bad for them, but places get shit on, and Detroit's a city that gets shit on tremendously.
I mean, it's Michigan. Nobody likes them. It's okay. We can just go with that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's the one nice thing is, you know me. I'm not a Michigan hater. I mean, they can go fuck themselves just like every other team. I don't care. But didn't see a lot of Michigan stuff. Detroit showed out. Their fan base, there was a ton of blue, silver, like they go all out. Really good fan base there for football when they're
They
good.
set the
It's
record,
exciting.
right? What, 667,000 or 60, whatever the record they set for it, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah, after the 3 days, they were averaging give or take two. The one really cool thing for me, not to humble brag a little bit, but it feels good. Kyle, you've experienced it, so you know the feeling.
Yeah.
When you go to the draft, it's packed. It's literally like a shit show of people. And we got there. I'm not gonna lie, we were running a little late because I'll explain the whole travel situation of getting around and shuttles and shit like that. But we were a little late getting in. Like we got in right before the number 1 overall pick got like started. So we walked in. If any of you watched it, as Eminem came out on stage. So that's literally when we were sitting in our seats. And the lines were fucking packed every which way to get into the auditorium or to like the draft city, whatever you want to call it. And it was packed. We start walking in and they go, this entrance is closed. We're at capacity. No one's allowed in. And I'm like, I have tickets. Like, I don't think this is going to be a problem. However, it's still annoying. I have to cut through 1,000 people that are waiting in line. And then I go up to the front and I show them my ticket and I go, I'm in the auditorium. I have tickets. And they go, oh, right away. And they open it all up for me and everyone looks at me in disgust. And I love every second of it.
The whole feeling of being like a king and walking in front of the peasants. Yeah.
It's so nice to just look back and be like, sucks for you. See ya. I'm going in. So I got to do that again, which is awesome. And we had a really good time though. But Detroit, the only critique that I had is obviously you have to shut some shit down to block the draft area off. It has to be secure. I understand that. However, they blocked off streets, and it's my own stupidity. I'll blame myself for this. I didn't do a lot of research on things that are around the area, like restaurants, bars, whatever. I didn't do a lot of research. So when we got there, I'm looking for shit to do. And the number one thing, this was something George actually called me earlier today and we talked a little bit about it. My buddy that I took, Josh, from Detroit, Michigan area, huge Detroit fan through and through. He wanted me to experience a Detroit Coney dog. And the problem with that is the place he wanted to take me was like a nightmare to try to find. Every time we'd put it in our maps, we'd get detoured and there's streets blocked off and I couldn't find it for the life of me. So I honestly gave up. I never got an authentic Coney dog except for at Comerica. I did go to the Tigers Royals game on Friday afternoon and I did get a Coney dog from inside the stadium, at least their version, the Tigers version of a Coney dog.
Yeah.
And Josh got one too, and even Josh was like, "That's not a real Coney dog. Like that should not be your experience." Is basically what he said. So I never got to experience a true Coney dog, but George says he is heading to Detroit in, not I forgot when, but not too long from now. He's got a wedding to go to, so he said he will bring me back some Coney dogs, and I'm very excited for that.
I never thought somebody would be so excited about a Coney dog from Detroit, but I guess you have to experience it.
I'm a big hot so I love hot dogs through and through. Yeah. I'll try just about anything. So, hey, if a Coney dog is this great experience that you have to try and everyone's raving about it, then let's go. I'm down. Let's try it.
Did you try the mom spaghetti place? Did you get there?
No, we didn't get there. Same thing. It was I wasn't expecting the crowd, so it was a nightmare to kind of get around it, like the downtown area. It was packed every which way. So we did not get mom spaghetti. I do want to shout out. I do have a place if you're ever in the Detroit area to check out. It is called Andrews on the Corner. It is literally almost right on the water at the Canada-Michigan border, and awesome little mom and pop dive bar. It was a cool place. We got really lucky. So our Airbnb, we were a couple blocks away from a brewery, so we went to the brewery first. Tara and I got there early. We got there way before my friends, not way before, maybe like an hour earlier than them, and we were like, well, let's kill some time. We can't check into our Airbnb yet. We're both hungry. Let's go grab a drink and have some food. So we went to a brewery. And as we're walking into the brewery, I see a sign that says shuttle to the NFL draft. And immediately my eyes were like, tell me more. Because our big issue was, how are we supposed to get to and from the draft? It's an hour walk in Detroit. I ain't making that at 11 o'clock at night with a baby. So we got to figure out a way to ride or to drive. Parking's $50+ just to get near the area. And that's just a one-time deal. Obviously, if you leave, you lose your spot, you lose your you have to pay again to come back. Uber doesn't really Uber babies. It's hard to get them to agree to take a car seat and a baby, and I don't blame them. That's a big liability, so they don't do that. So honestly, we were kind of like, what the fuck are we going to do? Like, it was a huge concern for me leading up to it. I was very anxious about how are we supposed to get to and from the draft and like with the baby.
I can only imagine the how edgy you were probably.
Yeah, I mean, I was literally Googling like which car services take babies, how can I transport my baby? Like I was doing a lot of research and to no avail. I was honestly like, I don't know what we're going to do. Like we'll have to figure it out. Honestly, what I ended up telling Tara was I took out a lot of cash. I was like, it is what it is. It's draft weekend. It's a vacation. If I have to pay, this was before we got there. I'm like, if I have to pay $100 each time we drive into park, it is what it is. I'll spend money this weekend. That it's the draft. I don't care.
Right.
And then luckily we see that sign that says shuttle to the draft. So we walk over and it's this little mom and pop dive bar called Andrews on the corner. Shout out to the owner, literally the mom and pop of everybody there. He came over to my table and introduced himself, and I told him about my experience with the draft for the last 20 years, and he was blown away. I was like a celebrity in that place. Literally, every time I walk by, I don't like to brag. Like, I don't want to rub it in people's faces of like, oh, yeah, I go to the draft every year. Like, when I'm there, I feel bad because the locals are always like, oh, yeah, I got to walk around. It was pretty cool. And I'm like, oh, well, I was sitting in the auditorium. Like, it's kind of a brag. So I don't like to do it. And he was asking, he's like, are you guys going to try to get into the draft experience and do this? And then my buddy Josh was like, no, we're actually going in. Like, we have tickets. And I was like, all right, cat's out of the bag now. So I told the guy, been going for 20 years. We have tickets in the auditorium. And again, every time I walked by anybody that he saw, he'd be like, oh, this guy, he goes to the draft. He's been going for 20 years. And he loved talking about me. So it is what it is. I had a good time. Everybody was super nice. But then he came over again. And when he found that out, he's like, I always tell everybody my wife and I are the original Tom and Giselle. And I'm like, okay, like Tom Brady, I don't know, maybe Michigan thing. Right. I didn't understand the joke. Turns out his name is literally Tom and his wife's name is Giselle.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, they've been married for like 40 years or whatever. Like they were an older couple. They've got, kids in like their 30s, 40s. So he came over and I was like, okay, that joke makes sense now. At first, when you just tell me you're the original Tom and Giselle, I just thought like, whatever, it's a weird Michigan thing.
Party hard, yeah.
So yeah, that was really cool. He was super nice.
Did he shuttle you personally, or did they have like a service that did it, or how'd that work?
So he rented a huge van that had like fucking 5 rows in the back of it. And he drove it a couple times. He had his son-in-law drive it a couple times. It was kind of like a family deal, but I guess he used to run, his bar, I don't know the Detroit area that well. I've only been there a handful of times and I typically don't stay long. Apparently his bar is right down the street from where the Joe Louis Arena was, where like the Pistons used to play, I believe, back in the day, in the Red Wings. So he used to run a driver's service. He had like a fleet of cars that would go out and pick people up, and they could park at the bar. He takes you right to the front of the arena, brings you right back to your car, and it was pretty awesome. It was a really cool spot. He was telling me some great history, but unfortunately the Joe Louis Arena went down, and then COVID hit, and then he had some issues with his insurance where they were trying to like upcharge him and basically rip him off during COVID for owning the fleet of vehicles. So he ended up having to sell them all. And because he kind of knows transportation, he was like, fuck it, for the draft weekend, I'm just going to rent this shuttle for the weekend, charge people, get this, $30 a car. That's it. So we loaded up into my car, myself, my buddy Josh, and his wife Maria, and Tara, and both of our babies. We all loaded up into my SUV. We drove the 2 minutes to the bar, parked in their parking lot, $30, went inside, grabbed a couple drinks, got some food a couple times, and then they would take us to the bar, or to the draft. This was night one. The other really cool thing, as we're going, I asked, shout out to Quinn, that is Tom's son-in-law, who did most of the driving for the weekend. He was driving us there, and I said, how late does this go? And he goes, as late as you need it. And I was like, no, come on. Like, I don't want to hold you guys up. Like, what's a good time? And he's like, well, originally we were going to stop at like 10:45. And I was like, oh, that's a little early. I'm like, honestly, the draft's probably going to go till like 11:30, give or take. And he's like, honestly, that's fine. He's like, just shoot me a text. I got his number. And I said, I'll text you when we're done. And I felt bad keeping him up late because he was telling me that he's doing this just to help his father-in-law. He's got a couple of young kids, a wife at home. So I'm like, I don't want to make this dude stay out till midnight just to pick us up. So, luckily, the Lions traded up, and when they did trade up, we all looked at each other because my buddy Josh is a Lions fan. As soon as they traded up, the crowd went crazy. The Lions made their selection. We looked at each other and we were like, let's text Quinn. We'll go now to save this guy his night. So he ended up coming to pick us up. So we left after that pick, and he took us right to our car. We drove home. Boom. Same thing the next day. We go over to the bar. We're going to Comerica for the baseball game. And we're like, all right, here's the deal. We're going to come to Comerica. Then we want to come back to our Airbnb. And then we're going back out at night to go to the game or to the draft.
Right.
And the guy's like, no problem. He's like, just pay once. I'm not charging you every time you show up. So same thing. Went in, had a couple drinks, grabbed some food. Tara claims one of the best cheeseburgers she's ever had. So if you're in the area, go to Andrew's on the corner. They had really good food. Nice dive bar again. And then the kicker for how awesome these people were and why I'm giving them such a huge shout out is, again, they were charging everybody $30 a car each day. My buddy Josh has family that lives right by Michigan. That's obviously where he's from.
Right.
So he invites them all. He wants to show them the draft experience. So he tells his whole family, come meet at this Andrew's place. We'll all grab some food and some drinks, and they will shuttle us downtown. It's only $30. It's a sweet deal. His whole family comes in, cars full of people. They go there. He knows they're with them. The guy says, no charge. I'll take you guys downtown all day today for nothing.
No shit.
That's they were awesome.
Sounds like you made a best friend. You have to stop up there, drive up there for a weekend sometime.
Honestly, I already found their Facebook page. I like some stuff. I wanted to give them the shout out on the show today because I mean it sincerely. They were really, really, really nice people. Like the people of Detroit, everybody that I met were fucking fantastic. They were really cool. I don't think we're live on Instagram. I think I fucked that up because of the delay now that I'm looking at it. I just changed that. Good thing I thought of that. I saw the little tab up in the corner. So it's a little late, but we are live on Instagram now as well, I think. I don't know much about that, but we'll see. But yeah, so Detroit was really cool. Everybody was really nice. Go check out Andrew's on the corner. I don't know what they did. Everybody was making jokes. They're like, they must have like given the homeless people hotels for the weekend or something because there were like no homeless people. The city seemed very clean for being Detroit. Again, it comes with a bad reputation, but everything seemed awesome. It was fucking packed, elbow to elbow, a few places, which is tough because we're carrying a baby, wearing her on the baby Bjorn. But overall, had a great time. Detroit was really cool. We had our Airbnb from Thursday to Sunday. The only issue was, which another funny thing about being in Detroit, when we're at the brewery the first day, we asked the guy, we're like, how's the neighborhood? Like, we're staying in an Airbnb a couple blocks away. And he's like, where at? We told him the street. And he goes, oh, yeah, I used to live over there. He's like, you're okay. He's like, there's not really a lot of violent crimes or anything. He's like, but don't leave shit in your car. He's like, I recommend leave your car unlocked because people will try to break into it and they will break your windows. And I was like, oh, okay, kind of laughed it off, whatever. And I'm thinking in my head, like, I literally have nothing in my car. We took everything from my car up to our room. I don't leave shit in my car anyway.
Right.
So I have nothing in there. I'm not really worried about it. And Thursday, everything's cool. Fridays, everything's cool. We wake up Saturday to a text from our friends that went with us, and they said someone's car got broken into. Hey, what's up, Robert? Robert? Look outside. Some random person, I feel bad for them, but they also had a car full of shit. So it's like, if someone's going to break into a car, that's the one they're going for, the one that looks like there could be something in there.
Right.
So yeah, unfortunately, someone got their car broken into. That kind of startled Tara a little bit. So she was like, how about we just go home tonight, Saturday night? And I was like, whatever, that's fine. So we ended up spending the whole day there. And about 8 o'clock at night on Saturday, we packed up the car, drove home, got home at like 10:30.
Were you able to get that night back from Airbnb?
No, we just paid for the extra night. It is what it is. I don't think they would have because technically our checkout time would have been like 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we left still at like 8. So we were like, whatever. It wasn't, the Airbnb really wasn't that expensive. We found a really good deal. So wasn't that bad. But that's really it for me. I haven't done shit the last 2 weeks. Just being a dad. Baby's great. Sitting on the front porch with Tara right now. Apparently there's some white trash shenanigans happening a few houses down. Tara said there's a big yelling match happening. So she's out there enjoying that with the baby. But other than that, yeah, the baby's great.
That's part is this,
sleeps like a champ.
Out there sitting on the porch, just listening to what you can, get the details. It's the best part of being a neighbor.
And I'm kind of bummed I can't sit out there right now, but she's giving me all the tea.
Well, you've had an exciting 2 weeks. I have not had as an exciting 2 weeks. I've been mostly just working. Probably the most exciting thing to happen, obviously, was last week. We had our first MGA event, which was second event, but first one with decent weather. That was fun. Yeah. And then last night we had our bowling championship for Tuesdays, and we ended up winning. Our team won. My team won, which was great. So we had a couple too many drinks last night. Luckily, I took this week as a PTO week because this morning was a little bit rough. But other than the diet and lifestyle change I've been on for the last month, I'm down 21, 22 pounds.
Nice, not bad.
I'm losing it all from the midsection. So like the beer belly's going.
Got to start somewhere.
but it's felt good. I mean, getting out there, I'm at the gym 3 times a week, so I mean, it's kind of changing the lifestyle, just getting into sweating my ass off and pushing limits and lifting weights. You know, I sit down and I'm like, sit down in a weight machine. I'm like, "Oh, if I can throw this up. I used to bench this back in the day. Nope.
Yeah, not how that works.
My body's like, you are fucking crazy. So I'm like, I humble myself. I had to like knock it down to like a lighter weight and do more repetitions. But yeah, no, it's been interesting getting back into it. So I've been tracking, like obviously I'm counting calories, watching what I'm eating, and I make sure each day I'm kind of eating the same thing. And the goal with this is a lot of protein, a lot of water, not a lot of like carbs, because
Sure.
you want to eat away at whatever fat you have in your body. So I'm tracking that. Then I have an app that tracks like my exercises. So like I have a workout routine. So like obviously there's leg day, shoulder day, arm day. So it goes through and tracks everything I do, what I lift. So it's kind of cool. It kind of hold yourself accountable. It's kind of been the biggest thing. But yeah, that's kind of been the big going on in my life, is just working than that. So it's been fun. But it's nice to see the changes. Like, I mean, I feel the changes. I see the progress, you know. So things are going good. So I'm hoping to get to a good, healthy weight by the end of the summer. My goal is to be, I think 50, 60 pounds is my overall goal. So it's on track so far, which is great.
Yeah, that's the hardest part, you know, is getting started. A lot of people lose their motivation fairly quickly, and that's what that like they expect to lose the 20 pounds that you've lost in if it took you weeks to lose, they expect to lose that in the first
Right.
day. And when they don't see instant results, people are like, well, I'm a little discouraged. I didn't lose any weight, so I guess I should order that pizza or, you know,
Right.
whatever. And
I will say, because I mean, obviously, I feel like I'm the cheat code being on the shot, right? But it's crazy the amount what it does. I mean, it really just blocks you from being hungry. Like, it doesn't
yeah,
make you focus on food. So, like, if you're bored, you're not wanting to eat. You're just like, just drink water, right? But it does reduce your appetite, and it really, honestly, me and Jess, because Jess took the day off today too. We went and got lunch at a bar down the street, and I ordered like a chicken dinner, like it was a chicken bruschetta with asparagus, whatever, because I just focus on chicken and whatever protein. But I've eaten that before, and I could crush that plus like an appetizer. I ate half, and I took the other half, and I have it now. I'll eat probably after we're done with the show.
mm,
But that's it. Like, I get full so easily. Like, and that's like drinking too. I can drink, but I'm not like I used to. I can't drink that much beer, right? Liquor, whatever, right? I can drink liquor. It is what it is. But beer fills me up. So where I
sure.
can normally crush like 8 or 9, 10, whatever, 4 maybe, and after 4, I'm like sipping like nipples, like slowly drinking it, you know, which is, it's so crazy how much has changed. But
Losing weight and saving money, that's a nice thing.
that's the other thing too, is yeah, not really doing much, not drinking. So, but that's kind of been my life. But not as exciting as yours. You know, I'm glad. Where's the draft at next year though? What area?
Next year it's in Green Bay.
Ooh.
So the one thing I'm nervous about for that is the people of Green Bay, at least what I've seen so far on Airbnb, are complete pieces of shit.
Oh, good.
And they are trying to rate people. So as of right now, I looked up hotels and you can't book a hotel that far in advance. Like, it's too
Right.
far out. It wouldn't even let me look at options. But it's going to be held basically at Titletown, which is right outside of Lambeau Field. It's like they're for those of you that don't know, Lambeau Field is literally there are houses across the
I've
street from
seen
Lambeau
like
Field.
right, like people's backyards. It's right
It's in the
there.
middle of town, like a small town. So it's not
Thanks, Robert.
a big city like Detroit, Cleveland, you know, when like all the other drafts, you're not in a city. So there's not a ton of hotels around, which is fine. Like, you can transport. But again, hotels aren't available yet. So I was looking up just to see prices, because I'm sure they're going to be outrageous. And I was looking up Airbnbs because I'm like, well, let me see how these are. And there are people that are trying to pimp out like a fucking spare bedroom in their house, where they're like, oh, you get to stay with Steve, who's in this house. It's an extra bedroom with a twin bed. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. And people are trying to charge like $400 a night to stay in their extra bedroom with them
Wow.
living in the house. Like, you don't even get your own place. So it's, as of
Well,
right now,
someone's going to do that. You know,
oh, for
someone's
sure.
going to pay that.
And then there were people that had like apartments or houses where you would be by yourself, but they're no bullshit. They're asking for like $1,500 a night for a house, like a small house.
Wow.
So I got to wait till the dust settles a little bit and the excitement of the draft wears off, since it's so fresh. I think it will be, it'll get cheaper. But as of right now, I'm not even sure if I'm going to go next year. Like, going to Green Bay is awesome, but I want to go see a game. I don't want to just go sit and watch the draft. There's not a whole lot going on in the city. Like Detroit, I was able to go to a baseball game. I was able to do a bunch of shit.
Right.
Green Bay, Wisconsin. I mean, I can drink beer and eat bratwurst anywhere. It's not that exciting to me.
But you get to buy a cheese head and walk around with the cheese head on. Come on.
I could do that off Amazon. I could do that in my neighborhood and just look like a crazy person. But I'll see what everybody wants to do. I know my buddies are kind of throwing out the idea of going to Key West for the weekend instead of going to not Myrtle Beach, to Milwaukee. So we'll see what happens. Go stay with my cousin. I don't know who she's talking about. You have cousins in Green Bay? Oh yeah, Jesse.
She's just repeating what she's hearing down the street.
Yeah, that's probably what they're yelling, honestly. She said that they yelled at a bunch of little kids walking by, and they were like, "Keep going, kids. There's nothing to fucking see here." They're just yelling at strangers at this point.
I love it.
Yeah, I don't know which cousin she's talking about, but
that Airbnb thing is true because this next weekend, we go down to the PGA Championship, and this year it's in Louisville. So we're driving down to Louisville for the weekend to watch the PGA Championship. And like last year, we went to Rochester and we got an Airbnb 10 minutes from the golf course. We actually got it cheap, but we got it early. This year, being in Louisville, we tried finding like an Airbnb as well to try to find somewhere to stay, and they were fucking outrageous. And it was amazing. I mean, it was like $300 a night, and I'm like, no. And luckily, buddy Jory got like a connection or found something and got lucky to snag 4 hotel rooms for the entire week. The entire 3 days we're going to be there for like $200 and some, which is crazy, you know. But yeah, I mean, just trying to find places down there, seeing the prices as you get closer, just incrementally get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's and I get it. Take advantage of it, right? You have a house.
Sure. I mean, it's a supply and demand.
Yeah, take advantage of it. Make your money. I get it. It's a business, right? You know, do what you have to. But no, it's crazy.
The Detroit hotel sold out fast as fuck, so that was never even an option. So I got lucky with the Airbnb that I found. The one thing which wouldn't have been that bad, I tried to get Tara. Her fucking, long story short, her passport is invalid because we got married. It's got her old last name on it. She's never gotten it updated. So there were some cheap ass Airbnbs right across the water in Canada where I was like, I'm like, dude, let's just stay in Canada and we can just drive across every day. Like, it's really not that expensive. But of course, I'd had to get Tara would have had to update her passport. I would have had to gotten Teddy a passport. They would have had to to get their baby a passport. It would have been a whole thing, which
isn't there just like a card you can get? Not just a passport. Can't you just get like a card to go across?
I don't know. I don't know if you. Yeah, I think I've heard about that. Yeah, my buddy does that sometimes to go up to the casino. But I would rather just get a passport because we plan on going to.
You have to do it anyways. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, we want to go to the Dominican Republic this year, and so Tara needs to update hers. Teddy needs to get a passport. So these are things that could have just been like a 2 bird 1 stone type situation if Tara would have done it and saved us money in this Airbnb. But
all people who plan things accordingly, she couldn't plan for this.
Because it was my trip. She doesn't care. For her trip, when we're going back to Punta Cana, watch how up my ass she's going to be about how I have to drive her downtown to get this paperwork and like any little thing that she's going to need. She's going to be on my ass about it. But with me for the draft, it was, we'll just stay in Detroit and watch people's cars get broken into because I don't want to go to the fucking...
Canadians would never have broken into your car. They would have helped. They'd have
been like, hey, buddy, can I clean your window with maple syrup? Hey, I'm like, yeah, absolutely you can. Thank you. He'd be on a horse, but instead Tara doesn't want to do anything for me, but that's marriage.
Yeah, give and take.
She takes it all and doesn't give a shit.
Nothing in return.
That's a give and take. But yeah, that was pretty much it for me. I didn't do a whole lot.
I'm glad you had fun.
Other than the draft. It was a great time. Went to a dispensary literally the minute I got there because my buddy Josh is a big fan of that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it was cool. We had a good time. Really fun weekend. Ate at like Andrews was awesome. We ate at some other good restaurants, tried a bunch of food, tried a bunch of beer. Had a good time.
Good. Glad. Yeah, it seemed like a good time. Just looking at the wide angle picture of the entire draft, like the sea of people, like, and the fact that they dominated even Nashville's numbers they had, and I thought Nashville was fucking packed.
Yeah,
that's crazy. So congratulations, Detroit. Way to host. Way to show out. Now it's on the Green Bay, and I don't know if Green Bay is going to show out as much as Detroit did, though. But
for me, I just don't know if they're like I've never been to Green Bay again. Everything I know is based on just pictures and maps and shit like that. I don't know how they're going to be able to fit this many people. They don't look like they have the capacity to hold, 200,000 people a night. And we'll see how they do. Robert says thanks for the invite. I'm assuming for the golf outing or golf trip.
Wasn't my invite to give, my friend. I apologize.
Yeah, fuck you, Robert. I'm just kidding.
I'm just a Louisville person. I'm the one actually driving the Louisville because I will refuse to let people drive if I'm in the car. I have to be the one to control the vehicle.
Okay.
I don't know. It's weird. I get motion sickness if I'm the passenger for too long. If we're going downtown, we're going somewhere that's 20 minutes away, that's fine. But if I'm in a car for a long time, I get motion sickness and I can't fucking stand it. So I'm like, nope, I need to be in control. Plus, if we're gonna die, it's gonna be because of me and not for someone else's stupidity. So I'd rather
fair.
take the
If
blame.
Jesus has to take the wheel, Kyle wants to be behind
behind
it at least.
Jesus, who's taking the wheel? Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into it then. It is 7:45. We are going to start off. We have a lot to cover today. As you can see on the bottom, thank you to George for lining that up. We are going to talk a little bit about the Cavs and the rest of the NBA playoffs. We're going to recap the NFL draft a little bit, go over all the Browns picks, talk about the Caitlin Clark incident with the reporter from the Indianapolis Star, talk a little bit about the Guardians if we have a chance. Really not a whole lot to talk about with them. A little injury, a little call up, you know the drill. And then spoiler alert for my just the tip. George kind of blew it on that one, but that is going to be my tip of the week. Is
well, if it wasn't going to be
Brady.
you, it was going to be me. So I'm sure anybody watching assumed that we were going to bring that as a tip.
And regardless, it was going to get talked about one way or another, so it makes sense to have it on there.
Fucking hell of a show to watch, man.
Because normally at the end when we do the just the tip, we kind of spend like a minute or two on our topic, but I think the roast, depending on how much time we have, I'm going to be able to fill a lot of time with that because I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of comments and critiques and things of that nature. So
I will say this, and we'll talk more about it later. I just hope that this is the start of bringing these back, or the start of Netflix doing this type of stuff, because I think hosting that live in front of the audience size it did was top notch. Like that's how these should be done.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that there's another big there's so many celebrities that could probably go get roasted, but I hope they do it again with someone else. And Nikki Glazer needs to be the host, or she needs to be like the person on the stage. But and Jeff Ross obviously too. Oh, hi, Shai wants to talk too. But I was pretty amazed with how that was done, and I hope they do it again. And the fact that the jokes they said, I'm glad people took it as what it was meant to be, which was jokes, right? And not throw a fit. Even though I saw some people bitching about some of the jokes, but I'm glad
you're gonna get that regardless. Dub, what's up, dude? Thank you for checking in.
But I hope this is the start of Netflix doing this with other stuff, which is great.
Yeah, no, we're definitely going to touch on the roast as we get to the end of the show. But speaking of jokes, how about the Cavaliers in the playoffs? They are a fucking disaster. They almost blew it against the Orlando Magic. It's fucked up to think about. It took how long it took to get that series wrapped up, because we were here 2 weeks ago to the day, and the Cavs, I think, were up 1-0 in that series. And I was literally on here going, I see a sweep in our future.
Little did we know.
They took us to 7 games. They held an 18-point lead in the second half of that game. The Cavs had to come back and win. They did end up winning by like fucking 10 plus points or whatever. So it was kind of an ass kicking in the end, but you still let the Orlando Magic take you to 7 games. You still let them blow you out in 2 of your losses in Orlando. Like they weren't even fucking close. You lost by 25 points in each game. Just some horrible basketball from the Cavaliers. Truthfully, I'm disgusted. I understand this is going to make me sound like a bad fan, but I don't really give a shit. I'm realistic. Everyone that listens to this show, Kyle especially, he knows I am the most realistic person. I am not afraid to talk shit. I was the first one to bash Baker. I was the first person to start talking shit a little bit about John Dorsey. I just call it like I see it. I want the season to be over for the Cavaliers. This is hard to watch. Yesterday, don't get me wrong, this isn't like a big, oh, hey, look at this guy, he's so cool. We were down by fucking 20 points in the fourth quarter. I turned the game off with like 10 minutes to go in the quarter because I was like, they have no chance. I turned it off. We started watching a movie. I had no interest in watching that game anymore after that. It was disgusting. I'm predicting a sweep. I'm predicting a Boston 4-game sweep. I really don't even know if any of these games are going to be close. What do you think?
No, real quick though, basketball. Did you see they just announced the MVP?
Is it Jokic?
Yeah.
Yeah, saw that coming.
It's white boy season this year, so they gave it back to Jokic.
He earned it. It also sucks because
they're getting their asses pounded right now. But yeah, it does suck. But
yeah, it's just congrats to him. He's one of the best players in basketball. But they changed the rules this year, and rightfully so, because it would have been fucked up if like Joel Embiid won MVP, even though he missed half the season or something like that. But now they have the new rules to stop teams from resting players. So if you miss a certain amount of games, you're not eligible for postseason awards. And obviously, Donovan Mitchell missed enough games to not be eligible for awards. Joel Embiid missed enough games to not be eligible for awards, etc. And but Jokic to me is personally, I think he is the best basketball player in the NBA right now. He literally can do everything. He can play defense, he can shoot, he can pass, he can score, he could literally do everything. They just won the championship. They're obviously getting their asses kicked, as we said, but they are the 2 seed. They're a good basketball team. The Nuggets are no joke. They're dealing with some injuries right now. They don't have the same heart and drive as they did last year. So their season's about to be ending really soon, thanks to the Minnesota Timberwolves. But congrats to Jokic. I think he deserves it. I can't think of another player that deserves the MVP over him.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it was pretty much assumed he was going to get it, but back to the Boston thing. So I don't think it's going to be a sweep. I think the Cavs take one. I think they take one at home, just by sheer will of Mitchell doing what he can to not let us lose a game or whatever, because I think this is the entire thing.
He tried that yesterday and it didn't help.
I know. It's just the Mitchell show, and everyone's there as a supporting cast to watch him do what he has to do. And the biggest thing I hate about this is the fact that Orlando is aggressive, right? They're tough. They beat the shit out of us. I mean, they really did. They pushed us around. It's like playing New York last year. We got pushed around. Allen being out, it does affect it. I think we talked about this earlier. I think Allen being out is a huge factor. That big guy down low. But I mean, Mobley's he's such a pussy, man. It really is. I mean, he gets bodied every damn game. And I hope they don't extend him. I hate saying this now. Maybe it's too early to say that, but I just don't see him as a future here. I just don't. But I do think the Cavs take one, and this is, like you said, they're going to get railroaded. I mean, I think this point spread for the next game is probably going to be the same, 12.5, 11.5, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah, and even that was like considered, it was super low.
This is just a warm-up game for the Eastern Conference for Boston. That's all we are. And if we win one, I'll be happy for that, but I just don't see him. I don't see them doing anything more than one game. That's it.
Yeah, so to your point about Mobley, that's actually a super hot topic right now in the city of Cleveland, because Mobley has looked really bad in the playoffs, honestly. He's been bullied. He's been pushed around. He looks kind of afraid. He's missing a lot of easy shots. He does a lot of bad things. Like, I'll give credit to Greg Anthony last night during the game, who even called out Evan Mobley early and said there was a play where Evan Mobley got the ball, and I think he was being covered by like Derek White or something. And there's like he's a foot taller than the guy, and he bends his body, pump fakes, dribbles down, like does all this unnecessary shit. Like, dude, you're 7 foot tall. He's 6'4" or whatever. Like, you have a really big advantage on him. Just go to the basket. You're there. And he's pump faking and he's dropping the ball down. That's when he gets the ball stolen, because he loves to try to dribble. I don't understand that. How that hasn't been coached out of him yet. And he continues to do it. And Greg Anthony called him out on it. Greg Anthony was like, I don't know why this guy brings the ball down and he's pump faking. It's like, dude, you're taller than this guy. Go score.
Yeah.
And there's some blatantly obvious things that he needs help with that he's not getting coached up on, in my opinion. And I do think we get swept. Even if we do win one game, I don't think it's enough to save anything. I think the writing is on the wall for the future of this franchise. And I think it starts with JB Bickerstaff. I think he's fired. I have lost my interest in defending JB. Last year, the team played great defense. The team bought in 100%. I really like JB and the steps we took as a team. This year, we've made a lateral to a backward step this year. They had a really great month with a lot of injuries. We were without Donovan Mitchell. We were without Darius Garland. And at one point, we were the best team in basketball. They had like 13 straight wins or something like that. Like, they were truly like probably the best team in basketball for like the month of January.
Absolutely.
And, yeah. How quickly the wheels fell off. Then they could not figure out how to win towards the end of the season when, I mean, don't get me wrong. Little did I know the Sixers were going to be as bad as they were against the Knicks, because Joel Embiid was that banged up. I thought he was coming back a little healthier than he actually was. So, egg on my face. I think the Cavs could have beaten that Sixers team in a series had we gotten the 2 seed. And I think the 2 seed would have been pretty easily obtainable if the Cavs didn't fuck off. I mean, we missed out on the 2 seed by like a game or a half game or whatever the fuck it was. And we had horrible losses to not the last game of the season. They lost that one on purpose. I get that. But a week or so before that game, we lost an outright game to the Charlotte Hornets. Inexcusable. They're one of the worst teams in basketball. We lost a bunch of games where we had a big lead and blew it in the fourth quarter. Like, there's no excuse for some of the losses that we had. And to me, it shows it's a lack of the coaching.
We had this conversation last year.
Yeah.
Excuse me, about JB, about like, is he a coach we want back? Is he someone that their future is built around?
So last year I was pissed. Last year that Knicks series just left a bad taste in my mouth, but that I didn't really blame on coaching. That was a toughness factor. This team had no toughness. They got pushed around by New York. You can't really coach toughness. Like if the players are tough, they're tough. If they're not, then they're just not. You can't really like make them go out there and be tough because it's showing right now against Boston. It showed last series against Orlando. Maybe a coach could help that a little bit, but the players just don't have any heart. And unfortunately, that kind of goes back to the coach. Like the coach has to get them ready to play. And JB just hasn't been able to do that yet. And I didn't know this. The Cavs have not won I guess I do know this now. We've only gone to the playoffs twice with JB Bickerstaff, technically 3 times if you count the play-in tournament a couple of years ago where we were on the road. And that's a key factor because the Cavs have not won a playoff game on the road and they are averaging a loss by like 20 plus, like it's like 10 plus points loss on the road in the playoffs under JB.
That's an amazing stat.
Not good. Not good at all.
My God. Yeah, I don't understand. I don't know the identity of the team. That's another thing I texted you earlier. I just don't understand who they are. Like, are you a 3-point shooting team? No, maybe sometimes. Are you a force it down low type team? Well, not really, but I mean, you try to, right? You're all over the place. Usually the identity of a team, but right now it's just get the ball to Mitchell and get out of his way. That's everyone what they're doing. I mean, the fact that stat line when I texted you the other night, whereas like Mitchell's the only one that scored in the fourth quarter against that loss against Orlando, that's pathetic.
Yeah. And it takes me back to this is the LeBron era, the pre-Miami LeBron era with a lesser talented LeBron. We're expecting Donovan Mitchell to be our savior. Donovan Mitchell's a really good basketball player. LeBron James was a passer, a rebounder, a defender, and a scorer. Donovan Mitchell's pretty much just a scorer. He can get some good assists. That's about it. Doesn't play any defense. And sometimes he can get some assists and sometimes he can get some rebounds, but it's not something you expect from him every night. He's not a consistent guy. So he is basically a one-dimensional player. He scores. That's it. And that's not good enough in this NBA. That's not good enough against Boston of all teams. You had Derek White, their fucking 5th man on offense when he starts, score 25 points last night. I think he hit 7 3-pointers. Just again, you can't blame the Cavs for guys that just shoot lights out because the Cavs played decent defense. They were kind of contested threes. But Boston's just a really good team, and you have to match that. And then when you have guys, I have it written down here, you have Max Strus making $64 million over 4 years on his latest contract with the Cavaliers. He was solely brought in to be a 3-point shooter. He is shot like pure dog shit in the playoffs. He is not worth his fucking weight at all. Then you have George Niang. George Niang was brought in on a 3-year, $25.5 million contract. Pretty decent money. He played all 82 games in the regular season. He was an Iron Man. He was a crucial member of this team. Get to the playoffs, he is a full fucking liability to the point now where they can't even put him on the court. Tristan Thompson, Marcus Morris, Sam Merrill, these guys are getting huge minutes, and George Niang only comes in garbage time. That's a horrible fucking signing, and that reflects solely on Kobe Altman. I'm not going to play the blame game. I know different guys play better in different systems. There are different teams with better situations, but somebody compared the contracts, and Max Strus's contract is pretty favorable to what Drew Holiday makes in Boston and what Derek White makes in Boston. You have those two guys who are shooting the lights out, who are playing defense, getting rebounds, being aggressive. We have Max Strus making that kind of money to give us like less than 10 points a night. Not good. George Niang, again, big signing in the offseason. Can't even touch the fucking court. And then my number one guy that I have grown to hate, and I hate to say it because I really, really liked him and I wanted him to be great. Darius Garland.
Yeah.
The Cavs gave him a max contract. He's making 5 years, $200 million. And he's out there scoring 15 points a night. He's scared to shoot the ball. He's missing layups. He looks like shit. He's playing horribly. It made me seriously contemplate last night when I was watching the game. Did we trade the wrong point guard? Should we have traded Colin Sexton instead and kept Darius Garland?
All right, flip that. You mean traded Garland and kept Sexton, right?
That's what I meant. Yeah.
I know what you meant. Yeah. No. I had the same conversation with someone the other day about that. I was like, I don't know, Garland. Who are you? Like, I mean, like this entire season, it's either you're hurt or you're chucking up points trying to get threes, or you're not comfortable. It looks like he's not comfortable on the court, right? Watching him play basketball out there is just like it's like he's doing it on purpose almost. I know he's not, but it's like he's second fiddle to Mitchell, and it's like, oh, I don't have to work as hard because Mitchell's out here. But like, bro, like, do something, you know?
Yeah, so they had Austin Carr on a local radio show yesterday, and they asked him, they said, "What's up with Darius Garland?" And he straight up said, he goes, it's a lack of confidence. He has no confidence in himself right now. And that's not a good thing. That's like, it's the yips. It's if you're having a bad round at golf and it ruins your whole day because you don't have any confidence. It's rare that you start off poorly at golf and then turn it around unless you're professional. If you're an amateur player and you start off with a pretty shitty day, your days are pretty much going to continue shitty, and you're going to go home with a really high score.
And hope it gets better.
And you're going to go home and be, when someone asks how you did today, you're just like, I don't want to talk about it. Like, you're having a bad day. Darius Garland is kind of stuck in that situation. And for me, I almost look at, he's a guy they should probably get rid of in the offseason. What's up, Steve? Shout out to Steve. I actually saw and hung out with him on Sunday. We went out for Cinco de Mayo, got some Mexican food at El Torito, got some margaritas. Nice seeing him and hanging out. Thank you for checking in. We had some technical difficulties today, so we got started kind of roughly around 7:30. But we're here. We make it work. Shit happens. But yeah, so I'm currently, I mean, easier said than done. Don't get me wrong. You can trade people in the NBA, but obviously Georgia Niang can go. No love lost there. Darius Garland, I think, would be the biggest player on the roster to get rid of. I think the team would be better without him, and I think he's young enough, and he's been an all-star. He's a really good player when he gets it together. I still think you could probably pull a decent haul for him.
That's a hell of a contract to trade away, though. You know,
it's average though in the NBA. I mean, guys get max contracts. It's just you got to match salary. I mean, he's had that contract for a couple of years now, so it's not as steep, but it was all fully guaranteed. So that's the hard part for the trade is there's no, out years or anything like that. But this all takes me back to your original comment about not paying Evan Mobley.
Yeah.
I'm on the fence. I heard a really good, compelling argument today. And again, I'm not comparing the two, nor do I think he'll ever be the type of player that this other guy is. But somebody mentioned, and they brought up a really good point, Giannis Antetokounmpo. When Giannis Antetokounmpo was drafted, he was a twig. He was not very good. He was basically a bench player for 3 years until he finally got his shit together. And now he's a perennial MVP. When he's healthy, the Bucks are one of the best teams in basketball. Again, I'm not saying Evan Mobley's going to turn into Giannis, but I'm just saying it took Giannis 3 years to get his shit together with a similar build. Maybe Evan Mobley just needs a little bit more time, and I personally am willing to give him that time because I have seen really good flashes from Evan Mobley. And I think his defense is what sets him apart. When Darius Garland is having a bad day, he's missing shots. He's turning the ball over. He is hurting the team. If Evan Mobley's having a bad offensive day, he's still going to get you 15 rebounds, 10 plus, give or take. He's still going to get you a couple blocks. I like that. For me, I want that on my basketball team.
So Giannis needs, so like what Giannis did, we have to put Evan into like the Captain America syringe lab.
Steroids.
To get him boosted
pump
up.
Pump him full of juice in the offseason before they start drug testing. And I want him coming in looking like fucking Shaq next year.
Before and after of Giannis's pictures of when he was that skinny to what he is now, it's amazingly, he's not the same guy. Like, that's not the same guy. There's no way.
It makes no sense. But if you're a guy who doesn't have a very confident jump shot, similar to Evan Mobley, you have to kind of figure out a way to make your game work. And that's by playing bully ball. Evan Mobley's got to bulk up. Kevin Durant got away with being skinny because Kevin Durant can shoot lights out. And he's, tall as fuck and more athletic than Evan Mobley. You have Victor Wembanyama, same thing, skinny as a fucking twig. However, he's 7'4" and he can shoot the ball and do some freakish things out there. So it expands his game a little bit. Evan Mobley either has to put on weight or develop a lights out jumper. He has two options. That's really all he can do.
Right.
And he has to figure that shit out quick because he is entering year 4. And I'm with you. I'm on the fence. I think if you're going to get rid of any key players this offseason, for me, top of the list, Darius Garland, see ya. Good riddance. I really, really, really liked him. Wanted him to be a key factor on this team, wanted him to be here forever. But I feel like if you're planning on keeping Donovan Mitchell and having him sign an extension, I think getting rid of Darius Garland and getting rid of JB Bickerstaff are steps 1 and 2.
Do you think that Mitchell's behind the scenes, or maybe it mentioned to somebody in passing, like this is kind of what he would like to see happen if he decides to stay here? Like, do you think he's putting those kind of demands out right now?
No, I kind of think that it's the writing's on the wall. The evidence is there. The proof is in the pudding, whatever analogy you want to use. I think it shows that we play good basketball sometimes without Darius Garland. When he was hurt, it didn't really affect the Cavs when he broke his jaw this season. There weren't many instances where I watched a game and I went, man, they could really use Darius Garland today. Craig Porter Jr. came in and played great at point guard. He can score, he can pass, he can play good defense. It's unfortunate that he's hurt right now, but Craig Porter Jr. can instantly come in and be your. I know it's crazy. You could find somebody else too. Don't get me wrong, but Craig Porter Jr. could be your starting point guard. There's Ty Jerome, who's on the Cavs, who got that sprained ankle in the beginning of the season and then missed the entire year and has never been talked about again, which is very fucking weird to me. It's still kind of a mystery. But yeah, I think Darius Garland, I agree with that. I think he feels a little too much pressure to play with Mitchell, but that just means someone's got to go. And for me, I'm getting rid of Darius Garland if I have to get rid of one of the two. But I think you could find another point guard. Again, Craig Porter Jr., pretty good. You have Ty Jerome if they want to play him. I'm not really sure what's up with him. Or sign somebody. We have a draft pick this year. Draft a point guard. Draft Bronny, and then LeBron will come, and there's your point guard right there. So
okay.
Plenty of options.
Shit in the hand.
Plenty of options.
Let's see what happens.
So that's a big thing too for this offseason. I want LeBron James on this fucking team in the worst way. That's my top priority. Get him back. Give me Bronny. He is more than likely going to opt out of his contract with the Lakers, making himself a free agent. I want JD Bickerstaff fired. I want Mike Budenholzer hired as the head coach. I see a lot of people whenever you, and I agree with them, whenever you talk about firing a head coach or a manager or whatever, everyone always goes, well, you could say that, but who's going to replace him? First off, I get where you're coming from if you're trying to like make a point, but at the same time, where do most head coaches come from? When a team fires a guy and a new head coach comes into town, they're usually some sort of coordinator or bench guy that you've never fucking heard of. So for the people out there that try to use that as like a pedestal of like, well, you can't say to fire the coach if you don't have a backup. It's like, well, there are backups. It could be this team's offensive coordinator or this team's, assistant coach on the bench in the NBA, or this team's third base coach in baseball. Like There's so many different ways to find a head coach that we don't even know because we don't know these people or conduct interviews and shit like that. So very lame excuse.
Make their name for themselves at some point, and the only way you get that is by getting a chance to do that, right?
Yeah. Like there are legit rumors right now that JJ Redick is going to be the next head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers.
Why not?
Who saw that coming? They fired Darvin Ham. Who would think, okay, then who are they going to replace him with? You're probably thinking like, well, there's this ex-head coach, there's this guy who's been an assistant, and no, JJ Redick is literally a legitimate head coach candidate right now. But I
could see that working out. I mean, who thought that Kidd would turn to be a decent coach? I mean, he had a rough start with his first coaching gig, right? I would argue that Jason Kidd's doing a pretty bang-up job right now,
Yeah, I mean, there were rumors that the Lakers were going to try to poach him in the offseason. So the Mavericks gave Jason Kidd a new contract extension right away to make sure he's not going anywhere. Jason Kidd, however, a million times the basketball player JJ Redick could even pretend to be.
Yeah,
so that probably helps. Also, I think the experience that he did have in Brooklyn helps. JJ Redick never having any coaching experience, all of a sudden just going to get a head coaching job because he does a podcast and works on ESPN. Kind of crazy to me. Reminds me of the John Gruden, Mike Mayock hiring back in Oakland a few years ago, where Mike Mayock's working at NFL Network and they're like, oh, let's make him the general manager. And that tanked.
Backfired.
Put it mildly. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of options. Again, I don't have the greatest list. For me, I'm looking at the best available former head coach. Give me a guy with a championship ring, Mike Budenholzer. He coached a team in Milwaukee.
Hooked up yet, it's crazy.
I have to think it's because he doesn't want a job. There's no other explanation for that. I'm with you. How does this guy not have a job? But yeah, so the Cavs are going to have a lot of decisions to make more than likely by the next time we record an episode, which will probably be in about 2 weeks. The Cavs will be long eliminated and their season will be over. Maybe JB will have been fired by then. But for me, those are the things I'm looking to do in the offseason. Step 1, fire JB Bickerstaff. Step 2, trade Darius Garland. Step 3, sign LeBron James. Step 4, win championship. Boom. Got it.
You honestly think that LeBron will come back to Cleveland? You really think so?
He's always said he wants to retire a Cavalier. The Cavs now have draft picks. I feel like we're going to be picking kind of late because we made the playoffs. Just draft Bronny, bring him to Cleveland, bring LeBron to Cleveland, end this story the way it should be ended. I think if you put him on this team with Jared Allen, with Evan Mobley, with Donovan Mitchell, you've got yourself a championship contender, no questions asked. And I think bringing in LeBron James obviously brings in other free agents that are going to want to play here. And yeah, I'm all for it. I look around the NBA, there's nobody we could bring in this offseason that's going to make us better than the Nuggets. It's going to make us better than as of right now, the Minnesota Timberwolves. There's no one that's going to make us better than the Boston Celtics. There's nothing really the Cavs can do to get over that hump. The Milwaukee Bucks, for instance, they're injured as fuck. That's why they couldn't advance. But when healthy, there's no one the Cavs can get in the offseason that isn't LeBron James that's going to help them get over them. We're limited with cap space. The NBA is pretty tight with it unless you're signing your own players. So the Cavs are a little strapped for cash. They do have a draft pick, but again, we're picking so late, you're not getting a superstar, so it doesn't even make a difference.
Has there been any rumors to the Cavs even pursuing LeBron potentially if he opts out?
Yes and no. I mean, there's rumors for everybody. The joke right now is just who's going to draft Bronny James to get LeBron, and then obviously we have to wait and see if LeBron's even going to opt out of his contract. Most people think that he is. Yeah, Steve, you got in a little late. We went over the Strus contract. We went over the Niang contract. Again, Darius Garland's making $200 million to score maybe 15 points a night, and that's about it. And I've said this for a very long time with Darius Garland. He is the worst clutch basketball player that I've ever seen. He turns the ball over at an alarming rate in the fourth quarter. He makes stupid decisions, takes horrible shots. He really panics. And then, Strus, 4 years, $64 million to give us maybe 2 threes a night. He has one great game every 2 weeks, give or take. That's not good enough for that kind of money. George Niang, 3 years, $25 million to be not good enough to see the court in the playoffs, to lose minutes to Tristan Thompson, to Sam Merrill, who scored as many points as me, Kyle, and Steve put together last night. Fucking goose egg. So just embarrassing. The Cavs right now are on my shit list. Again, I turned the game off. I'm expecting a 4-game sweep. I'm expecting 4 ass kickings from Boston. It's a bad look for the Cavs, but Boston is really that much better than everybody else. They are the best team in basketball for a reason. The Cavs don't stand a fucking chance. And that's all I got on the Cavs right now. Again, we'll have the whole offseason in 2 weeks. The Cavs season will be long over. We'll have plenty of time to talk about their moves and their upcoming possible decisions.
Long over. Watch them surprise us and go out there and do something fun.
If they win one game, I'll be fucking surprised, truth be told. So that shows you how shitty this team is. I'm over them. I want their season to end. Again, I know it makes me sound like a bad fan, but
hey, we made it to the playoffs. Yay for playoffs, right? But let's be realistic here.
I mean, at this rate, the next year we'll go to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then the year after that we'll go to the finals. Then the year after that we'll win the finals. If we just progress one step every year, we're in good shape.
We're just repeating the story that we're used to. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, basically every year we just get one step further. No, I don't know. They just suck. Again, there's nothing. Jared Allen is a huge loss, and I'm defending him tooth and nail. I think that rib injury is no joke. I know rib injuries, when you can't breathe, you can't play basketball. That's a serious injury. There are people out there that are like, oh, he's soft. I don't care if I had my leg amputated. I'd try to get out there for my team. And it's like, I hate people on social media that say that. It's like, dude, you wouldn't last a fucking minute in professional sports.
Professional athletes. What are you talking about? They know what they're talking about.
It's a guy who would literally pass out and vomit if he ran the court twice is the one saying, I'd be out there for my team.
It's easy to say when you're sitting at home judging other people the next
100%.
Yeah.
And then I read the comments towards people like that, and they're always like, have you ever played sports in your fucking life? Like, you have no idea what a sports injury feels like.
Show me your resume. Show me where you went to school. What'd you do?
These people are so fucking, they have the audacity because it's social media. We talked about it a few weeks ago. Social media is just fucking toxic. Yep. But meanwhile, in the NBA, the Knicks and the Pacers have game one, or should I say the refs and the Pacers, because the refs definitely fucked over the Pacers on Monday night in a horribly officiated game. The end of that game,
that was a fun game to watch, though. That was the most fun I'd had watching a game.
Super fun game, but the refs really made it bad at the end. Overturning calls that were blatantly obvious, making the wrong call when things were blatantly obvious. Just overall a really shitty performance, and it couldn't have happened.
Do you think that they got the screen foul right?
No, dude, that's how every screen in the NBA looks. If anything, they should have called a foul on Dante DiVincenzo for flopping because that was fucking blatantly a flop. That was embarrassing.
Did you see their explanation for it? They're like, they broke it down. I was listening to an ESPN.
For the final 2-minute drill or whatever they call it, report.
Yeah,
2-minute
they said
report.
basically that he needed to give him the ability to turn before laying that whatever. Sorry, I'm having a brain fart.
Screen.
The screen. But I'm sorry, any screen that's ever set correctly in the NBA, any screen in basketball that's set correctly, you don't see it coming. That's exactly what it's supposed to be there for, like to prevent you from pursuing your guy. Surprised or not surprised, it is what it is. That's on you, right?
Yeah, most people after the game are all like, that looks like every screen I've ever watched in basketball. Like, that does not look any different than anything else. And for them to call that is crazy. And then on top of it, you had some of the bad calls where, like, I forgot who. I don't remember which player. It might have been Pascal Siakam or Miles Turner. I don't remember who. Somebody was going up for a layup. Jalen Brunson fucking hip checked them in midair.
Mm-hmm.
And the Knicks reviewed it, and the ref said, no foul. And everyone's like, how the fuck is that not a foul? That's like the worst call I've ever seen. He literally body checked the guy. And they're like, no, clean. The refs just really fucked up.
They're on right now, right? They play tonight.
Just started. Yeah, it's 7-4 Knicks. Game literally just started. There's 8.5 minutes to go in the first quarter. So yeah, plenty of time left in that one. But yeah, no, just a really shit job by the refs. Couldn't happen to a worse team after last year. And because my friends are Knicks fans, I fucking hate the Knicks. I want them to fail. I woke up today making fun of my friends because Mitchell Robinson's been ruled out for the rest of the series. At least he's out another 6 weeks because of he hurt his ankle or some shit. So they're without Julius Randle. They're without now Mitchell Robinson. So fuck them. I hope they lose. I hope they lose the next 4 in a row. I keep joking to my friends, and I always just say Pacers in 5. I just keep telling them that every time they text me. I fucking hate the Knicks. The Nuggets are down 2-0 to the Timberwolves. Are the Timberwolves legit?
Michael Jordan's son, Anthony Edwards,
which was funny because last year it was Jimmy Butler that was Michael Jordan's
bastard. He's got a lot of illegitimate kids out there that we need to.
When you're Michael Jordan, you do a lot of fucking. There's just no going around it. So I can't blame them.
I didn't see the Timberwolves being this good, but they just are dominating. I mean, they're playing really lights out basketball right now, which is crazy. I just didn't see it happening.
And the fact they did it yesterday without Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert is having a child. His wife is having a child or girlfriend, whatever. I don't know if he's married. So he missed the game for personal reasons to be there for the birth of his child.
You thought for sure that's an L, right? You have one of your best defenders, rebounders.
Literally, the guy just won Defensive Player of the Year. So you're thinking the literal best defensive player in the NBA is out. Here's where Jokic can go crazy. The Nuggets are going to get back in it.
Nope.
Not the case.
No, I think Jamal Murray needed to throw more things on the court, though. Maybe that would have helped him win.
Yeah, that was embarrassing. That's just something. I mean, I can't believe a guy who your team won the championship last year. You're on the Nuggets. The Nuggets are one of the best teams in basketball, and you're doing something that fucking embarrassing in the playoffs of all places too. Not even like a preseason game.
Or was it just a fine?
I think he just got fined, if I'm not mistaken.
Should have given him a game. Just have the next game you can't play.
Any other? If it weren't an all-star player, they would. But it's because it's Jamal Murray. They're like, well, we can't let him miss a game. We need the ratings and the money.
I do see the Nuggets coming back and making it close. I think they win. They're going to win this next one. I think I could see the Nuggets making it a 3-3 going into Game 7 here, but I don't know. And like you said, maybe the Nuggets are just winded. Maybe they're over it. Maybe they're done. I don't know.
I mean, a lot of teams, you have that championship hangover the next year because it took everything you had to win the championship the year before. And don't get me wrong, best player in basketball, arguably, Jokic. Remember when they won the championship last year and he joked about how he was just excited to be done with the season? He's like, I just want to go home and like not have to play basketball and see my friends.
He had to do a parade. He's like, when's the parade next
week?
When
do I get to go home? Yeah, I feel bad for him. So that makes me think that, like, I'm not saying he's not trying, but I just think the rest of the team might kind of have that, like, ugh, not this again. We gave it our all last year. So we'll see what happens in that series, but they are down 2-0. And then last night, Game 1 of the Mavericks Oklahoma City Thunder series. Oklahoma City wins that one pretty easily. They are up 1-0.
I thought the Mavs had a chance to take. I mean, I don't know. I guess I've really not paid attention too much to Oklahoma City this year, even though they've been like one of the best teams. I just didn't think they were that good. I thought Dallas would match up pretty well against them.
So they kind of did. Dallas made the game pretty close in the third quarter. I think they tied it up or they were down by 1 or whatever. Like, it was a pretty close game. And then I think the big issue was that yesterday Luka Doncic just had a horrible game. He literally he was really bad. So when your best player isn't scoring and is having trouble, it's going to affect the whole team, especially when you're playing against the number 1 seed. So I think that series could get a little tighter as long as Lucas steps it up a little bit, but we'll see how that one progresses. But that is your Around the NBA recap. And really quickly, if any of you out there are looking for anything to get your friends or family, go to deadthreadsshop.com. Use code JG for a little discount as you're checking out. Dead Threads they create new designs all the time. They literally just check their website at any given day. They're going to have a new team up there. They now are doing baseball shirts, if I'm not mistaken. I saw a Yankee shirt they're putting out. They also just started doing hoodies. So for those of you that have asked, their prices have gone up a little bit because they're trying to give you a quality product. So don't be afraid when you see the high prices. Because again, if you go to go to the checkout and use code JG, you're getting a little bit of a discount. I think it's 15%. I think. Don't quote me. But I can get you a little bit of a discount. Get you something cool. I have my Dead Thread shirts. I wore them to the draft last weekend. People were looking at them and loving them. My buddy Josh even looked and he's like, dude, that's fucking awesome. I love shirts like that. And I showed him the page. He had never been there. My buddy Josh is not a social media guy. He does not have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, nothing. He stays off that shit. So he's never seen these before. So when he saw it, he was like, dude, that's fucking sick. I love that. And I said, dude, look him up. Look up Detroit. And his eyes got fucking big. He's like, oh my God, these shirts are amazing. I'm like, yeah, you could have got some before the draft, but you fucked up. So yeah, people go to deadthreads.shop and use code JG, grab whatever you want and sport.
Got the right idea, man. Stay off social media. That's a smart man right there.
He just goes on Reddit. That's it.
I'll tell you what, I've spent more time on Reddit in the last couple of weeks than any time before. Just I get lost in so many goddamn rabbit holes on Reddit.
Dude, like, the different threads on Reddit, whatever they're called, is that what it's called?
Yeah,
a Reddit thread?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, there's one for literally everything.
Anything you could think of, you could type it in. It's going to bring you to a topic thread, and you just get lost in it, right? I always like to ask Reddit because people ask the most off the wall fucking questions ever, and you're like, there's no way someone's gonna ever had this happen before. Like I was reading thread that was sent to me the other day about a guy who was trying to fix a some kind of like outfit that he had, right? And so he put it on he didn't want to drill hole, he had to drill holes through, right? But he wanted to drill holes through a table, so he put the thing on his lap and he drilled like a hole through it, not realizing that obviously going through, it's going to go at the other end. He ends up cutting a drill hole right through the top of his dick.
Oh my God.
He's living at home with his parents and he doesn't want to tell them this, right? So he tries to like just kind of hold it, bandage. No, still bleeding. I guess he cut it right through his urethra or whatever. So he had to go. He tells the whole story. But that's the kind of shit you see on Reddit. You're like, there's no fucking way this happened. Like, and it just, God, dude, it's great. It's great.
So my new recent favorite thread that I see on Reddit is I like the Photoshop requests.
Oh, yeah.
People will post a picture and they're like, some of them are funny. Some of them are sad as fuck. Like there's one today where a guy was like, my brother just passed away. Could you, and the picture that he showed was his brother taking a selfie. So his phone's in the picture. And the guy's like, can you Photoshop the phone out and make it look like somebody took a picture of him? And I was like, oh, that's sad as shit. Like that's actually, a really good request. And there's other ones where a guy's like, got his baby like maybe a foot above him, not even, just kind of toss the baby up in the air. And someone's like, can you Photoshop it to make the baby look like he's floating away with a fucking parachute, or make the baby look like it's 100 feet in the air? Like I love funny ones like that. They make me laugh. And then then some other times they're like, oh, my wife just passed away. Can you get rid of all the people in the background? Or like, I'm like, God damn, that's sad. I just want the funny ones. I wish there was just a specific funny thread.
There's always emotional ones that are out there. Yeah, no, but I mean, there's just something for everyone on Reddit. Like
literally everything. So let's get right into the NFL draft. I will really quickly run down all of the Browns draft picks from the 2024 selections. And I had proof. I texted Kyle. I screenshot it. I showed all my friends that the day of the draft, well, around 2 at least, I texted everybody at like noon and I said, I think I want Michael Hall Jr. tonight. That's my number 1 pick. I think he fits all the boxes for the Browns. He's exactly what they need. Sure shit. Browns draft Michael Hall Jr. with the 54th overall pick out of
Great
Ohio State University. I was ecstatic, really happy with that pick. I think he's going to come in and get to sit behind some really good players, learn a lot. I think he's going to be a really, really good asset in Jim Schwartz's defense. And this goes a lot with, it's going to happen. I always sound like I'm talking down on people, but I don't mean to. It's just honesty. But again, when you're scouting players or looking for talent, you don't be a box score watcher. A lot of times you look at Michael Hall and people are like, oh, well, he didn't get a lot of sacks, so that must mean he's not very good. A, he's a defensive tackle. Defensive tackles aren't expected to get a lot of sacks unless you're Aaron Donald. B, he had one of the highest pass win rate percentages in all of college football. That's what you look for when you're scouting. This guy can beat his block and can do it very well and efficiently. I can coach that. That's kind of what you look at. This guy can work in my defense, because at Ohio State, he did not have Myles Garrett on one end. He did not have Zadarius Smith on the other end. He did not have Denzel Ward, all these guys in the secondary.
Yeah.
When you get that extra second to get to the quarterback, which he didn't have at Ohio State, that's where he's going to flash. So
Right.
if
And
he
let's
can
be honest,
continuously...
in the
Go
Big
ahead.
Ten, you're going against, I mean, big boys in an offensive line. A lot of people are being drafted themselves, right? So it's not like he's going to be coming in and have like a rude awakening for the NFL. I get it. It's NFL, but he's someone who's going to catch on, I think, quickly, which is what you need.
Adam, what's going on, dude? Thank you for checking in. Yeah, I love the Michael Hall pick, and I think it was perfect for the Browns, exactly what they were looking for. He gets to sit behind some people. The other thing the Browns fans don't really understand, I saw Browns fans bitching about the pick, and they were like, we need wide receivers, we need this, we need that. Dude, we're picking, the Browns roster is set. I hate to break it to people. All of our starters are set. Anybody we were drafting last week, 2 weekends ago, are for depth. Half these guys aren't going to make the team. I'm going to read you some names here, and these guys are probably going to get cut because the Browns have that much depth. That's just the way the NFL works when you're a good team. You aren't, Browns fans they don't understand how to accept the fact that we're not drafting for a starting position at every round like we used to. Back in the day, we would literally be in the 5th round looking for a guy where we're going, oh, he could probably start. Nowadays, it's like, hey, this guy might not even make the team. That's the kind of depth you're looking for.
And you know what's crazy, though, is by doing that for us the last couple of years, we've actually built a solid team because we haven't expected these guys to come in and play, which sometimes could make someone lose confidence. They don't catch on as quickly. They end up falling off the hill, and you're like, well, shit, we just wasted a talent, i.e. what we've done with every one of our quarterbacks over the last, 30 years, right? So having people they can slot in and learn slowly and get the system down, it works out in the end, right? So this is a good way of doing it.
And the other thing that people don't really think about is we've taken some chances on guys that have been complete busts. Anthony Schwartz, David Bell right now is looking like he's not going to pan out to anything special. I think he was a 3rd round pick.
Yeah.
So you've got these guys that you've spent pretty high draft picks on, 2nd round pick, 3rd round pick, whatever. And they've been cut already. They're not even on the roster anymore.
Right.
Cade York, I think, was like a 3rd round pick, cut.
And back again.
Anthony Schwartz, cut, 2nd round pick. You have these guys that we've taken and we've missed on, huge misses, busts. Okay. But it didn't affect the team. We won 11 games without those guys last year. It did not affect the team. That shows you the talent that they have. You can take chances, and if a guy doesn't work, obviously you want every draft pick to turn into a stud. I get that. Obviously that's the name of the game. That's the whole reason you're drafting.
Right.
But if you can make it work without it, then it is what it is. You're still winning.
Adam, not a fan of the Hall pick. Of course you're not, buddy. There's nothing to do with the Ohio State or anything, but it's okay.
Yeah,
sure,
he had one of the highest pass rush win percentages in all of college football. He's a little smaller. He could bulk up a little bit. He's not the greatest against the run, but in our defense with Jim Schwartz, we're not expecting him to be a run stuffer. We run a 4-3 defense. So he's not out there to be a run stuffer. You're hoping your other defensive tackle can do that, or your linebackers. You got JOK to help with the run. So Michael Hall is just a defensive tackle to get to the quarterback. A lot of people say in Jim Schwartz's defense, he could be a Fletcher Cox type player. I'm not comparing the two because Fletcher Cox is probably a Hall of Famer. But he's expected to be that type of role in Jim Schwartz's defense. So it's a really good pick, in my opinion. That's who I wanted. Then in the 3rd round, the Browns took probably Adam's favorite pick of the weekend, Zach Zinter, the guard from Michigan, who broke his leg against Ohio State, but he is fully healed and ready to go. So that broken leg didn't affect anything. He probably should have been a higher draft pick, to be honest, but because he got hurt, some teams, pushed him down the board a little bit. So I like the pick. We need a guard. Obviously, you can't have too many offensive linemen. Joe Bitonio and Wyatt Teller are not getting any younger or any cheaper. I think Wyatt Teller next year is set to make like $25 million or something like that. So there's a really, really good chance that this is going to be Wyatt Teller's last year in Cleveland. He could also be a guy that we trade.
What a workhorse he is, you know?
Yeah, I'd love to keep him, but you can't keep everybody. So I think we're going to lose Wyatt Teller. Joel Bitonio could retire at any moment. He's played in the league for 10 plus years now. So you kind of have to prepare for the future. So I think that's what the Zach Zinter pick was for. Here's your guy to sit back and learn from two of the best guards in the NFL. So good pick there. In the 5th round, Browns did not have a 4th round pick. They take Jamari Thrash, son of James Thrash, who I actually used to be a huge fan of on the Philadelphia Eagles. Wide receiver out of Louisville. He played at, I forgot the other college. He was a transfer. He was a really good wide receiver at one college, set a bunch of records, transferred to Louisville, went there, set a bunch of records at Louisville. Pretty damn good wide receiver to get him in the 5th round. Again, our wide receiver room is pretty deep, so he might not even make the team. If he does, cool. If he doesn't, it is what it is. He's a 5th round pick.
There's going to be some other casualties in that wide receiver room, though, I think, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, again, David Bell could be a guy that they get rid of because David Bell's going into year 3. David Bell was taken in, I think, the 3rd round, which means he only signed a 4-year contract. So he only has 2 more years left on his current contract. Then he'll be a free agent. He hasn't really done much in his 2 years in the NFL. So is he a guy you keep, or do you now give a fresh rookie contract to a younger player? My opinion, I would probably take Thrash over David Bell strictly for the let's see what happens with this guy. I'm not expecting if Amari Cooper gets hurt or if Jerry Jeudy gets hurt, whatever, God forbid, knock on wood, that doesn't happen. David Bell's not stepping in and taking over for them, nor is Jamari Thrash. I'm not putting that up there, but I don't know what Jamari Thrash looks like yet.
We know
what David Bell looks like.
You know,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I'd be okay with moving on from him if you have to. Gun to my head, if there's a guy you got to get rid of. You just get rid of the guy with the expiring contract coming up. And he's, still got 2 years on his, but to me, I could live without him. Next up, we had in the 6th round, linebacker Nathaniel Watson out of Mississippi State. He led the SEC in tackles. He has one of the highest or lowest missed tackle percentages in all of college basketball. I believe he was a classic Browns pick. He was the Dick Butkus Award winner. He was the best linebacker in college football last year, according to their voting system, whatever. And we snagged him in the 6th round. The Browns need linebackers. They have, we talked about it last week. They have JOK. They've got Devin Bush. They got Jordan Hicks. They brought in a few guys, but still their linebacker room is pretty weak. So I think Nathaniel Watson has a pretty good chance of making this team and potentially could be seeing a lot of playing time. So we'll see what happens there. In the 7th round, they took Miles Harden, cornerback, South Dakota State. So Miles Harden, again, he's a body. He's a defensive back. He's going to come in, probably not even make the team. I don't know much about him. He's a 7th round pick. There's not much to know. Then a defensive lineman, Jawan Briggs out of Cincinnati, defensive tackle, another guy to bring in for a little bit of depth for camp. Do I think he makes the team? No. So, it is what it is. It's the draft. You're taking 7th round guys when you have a pretty good roster as is. So
do we think Newsome is gone? Trade? Something?
I don't know. They picked up his option, so he does have another 2 years with the team. And hard to say. It's tough to say. I'm sure if they get a good deal, they'll try to move on from him, but I don't think they're going to just get rid of him to get rid of him. Technically speaking, you're now accounting to pay on the books. You're accounting to pay for him for the next 2 years. So right. I'm sure we'd like to get that money off the books next year because they picked up his option, but it's not a make or break thing. The year after, when he's due for a new contract, that's where it gets tricky. Right. Most players nowadays, you give them their new contract before their current one expires. So he would be set to make a new contract to get a new contract either this year or next off season before the season starts.
I'm wondering if they're going to just do that they picked his option up, which is fine, right? But to try to move him this year if they could.
I wouldn't. You can't have too many good cornerbacks. The salary cap is already set for this year. We have enough money for everybody. That's not a concern. So I don't think you need to get rid of him unless you get blown away by a deal. If a team loses their corner and they call you and they say, hey, we're willing to give you like a higher draft pick than you were expecting or a better player than you were expecting, whatever, hard to say no. But like one of the rumors I saw in the offseason, this was right before the Jerry Jeudy trade, which makes me think, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if he's still watching, but Steve told me about one. He heard a rumor that the Browns were in contact with the Detroit Lions about Jamison Williams for Greg Newsome. for me, that would not have been enough. That's not even close. That's like they better throw in a bunch of draft picks because Jamison Williams has been a colossal bust since he came into the NFL. Greg Newsome's been a really good corner, so that's not, to me, I would never make that fucking trade. And if it were even an option, if the Lions did call an offer that, I like to assume it didn't happen because Andrew Berry just hung up because there's no reason in even answering that call. But I think they're going to look to get rid of him eventually. But again, the right deal has to come along.
Yeah. Sure.
To be honest, I want them both to succeed and to be great. But I look at Denzel Ward and I look at Greg Newsome as two guys that I can't depend on. They both miss so much fucking time that it's irritating.
Ward's a walking CTE case, you know.
He is. I love Denzel Ward. I want him to be. He's one of the best corners in football when he plays. But yeah, they picked up his 5th-year option again. He's got an extra year at least before they're gonna do anything. But next year, I think he'd be gone. Next year, I think you're going to see a lot of casualties. That's where you'll end up seeing Wyatt Teller probably gone. Joe Bitonio might be gone. Greg Newsome could be gone. But it happens. Nick Chubb might not be here next year. You never know. But that was it for the Browns draft. They didn't have any. Again, we're picking for depth. There's no sexy picks anymore for the Browns. They took one wide receiver, one skill position player.
Back in the first round again next year.
Next year, the Deshaun Watson trade is officially paid. We've paid in full, literally and figuratively. The Browns fans that acted like we were in like draft purgatory because of those picks are fucking mind-boggling to me. Tony Grossi, who, say what you will, most people hate him. He's an old, out of touch Cleveland Browns beat reporter. For those of you that don't know, he literally was acting as if the Browns like got suspended from the draft for the last 10 seasons. The way he was like, "Oh, we're finally done with the Watson trade. It's all over with." And it's like, dude, we just won 11 games and went to the fucking playoffs, and you're worried about us not having a first-round pick? Like, clearly they made it work. They won games. They know what they're doing, but to them, it wasn't enough because they're so
Cleveland
used to
mindset,
sucking.
man. It's like
They're so used to being bad. The draft is their Super Bowl. Yep. And that's a shame that some people are that old and that fucking stupid and still getting paid to cover the Browns. And meanwhile, you've got these two young go-hards sitting here talking Browns, and we don't get any of that money.
No, you got people getting fucking Sirius XM deals or ESPN satellite deals that shouldn't be getting it, but that's fine.
That show will be canceled maybe before our next show airs.
Did you see that? I mean, I honestly thought
I saw it.
I thought it was a joke. I'm like, there's no fucking way.
So for those of you that don't know, I don't mind throwing shade on people. Kyle is referring to Aaron Goldhammer and Emmett Golden from ESPN 850. They are now going national. They're getting an ESPN show that's going to be on Sirius Radio on Saturday mornings. The funny thing about that, for me at least, is they did that show 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They took Aaron Goldhammer off the morning show. They paired him up with Emmett Golden in the afternoon, and they called their show the Golden Boys. And it ran from like 3 p.m. or whatever till, it was drive time, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m., whatever, every day. That show sucked. Everybody hated it. It got canceled really quickly, and those guys all went back to their old ways. And now they're going to make that a national show. A show that failed locally is going to go national. Best of luck. Best of luck.
I just can't stand listening to either one of them. What sucks for this is I know Emmett like personally because I worked with him at Dick's.
Seems like a really cool guy, but
he just doesn't translate well online, and he's turned into a very sensitive individual, especially when it comes to tweets and stuff. Like there's a couple times I've tweeted at him and like corrected him on certain things. And if I'm doing that, where I'm not one to correct people, but like what you are getting paid to be out there representing yourself. Come on.
So I got a lot of people that ask me, they're like, why do you even listen to that station? I have a history with Tony Rizzo. So I still listen to his show almost every day. I listen to the Rizzo show, the really big show it's called. Tara's dad went to high school with Tony Rizzo. Tony Rizzo was a center. Tara's dad was a guard. Those two both played on the offensive line together. He knows Tara's dad, when you say the name at least. So I got on that show a bunch back in the day. I was known as Justin in Parma. I would call in or email in, and I would say, I'm dating Mike Stefansen's daughter. Riz would read it. The station would call me every once in a while, and they'd be like, hey, we're having an event. Would you like to go?
We did pull against Rizzo, back in the day.
Yeah, Rizzo's a very cool guy. Currently, though, it's like Howard Stern. He is so out of touch with sports. It's like embarrassing, but I still listen every day. It's funny. Yeah. But speaking of Reddit, if you look up the Really Big Show Reddit, It's pretty damn good. They have a daily post that goes up to talk about the show. Every show, they talk about the really big show. They talk about Cleveland Browns daily. They talk about the afternoon shows, and people are fucking ruthless in that thread. It's so fucking funny. And Rizzo's an old dude. Joby's is still the number one sponsor. You hear the Joby's talk every day at about 9:30. Rizzo he's now an older guy, so they have him on 4 days a week, so he doesn't work Fridays anymore. And neither does Aaron, apparently. So it's these two young guys. I don't even know their names. One guy's, they call him Paw, I think, P-A-W, Paw. And then the other guy's Nick Paulus. So it's Paw and Paulus are the two guys. They do the show on Friday. The people on the Reddit thread, dude, they're not wrong. I'm not gonna lie. The show is unlistenable. When I turn in, or if I turn it on and it says it's Paw and Paulus, I'm like, nope, see ya. But the people in the Reddit are fucking ruthless. Where they're
what is
like,
it? They just don't have chemistry with each other, or
they're just not good. They're trying too hard to be like edgy, but also because they have sticks up their asses because they're afraid to let loose. They're very tight. So like they're trying, like their edgy take will be like, should the Browns trade Nick Chubb in the offseason? Like something like that is like their hot take of the day. And it's just like, I don't know, it's bad radio and people are fucking ruthless, dude. Ruthless. But yeah, I feel bad for him because like
ESPN local, if you're listening, give us an opportunity. We'll take something
if
over.
ESPN 850 called me today and they're like, hey, do you want to come in? I'll go in, but I'm not the kind of guy that's going to go in there and kiss ass. That's the other thing too, is everyone has to kiss Rizzo's ass. You have to act like he's the funniest guy around. You have to act like he's the greatest thing ever because he has a good history. All right, that's great. You've been around forever, but unfortunately, dude, you're a dinosaur now. You're not the same guy you used to be. You're not as hip. You're not as up to speed with sports. So I'd take a little step down off that pedestal that he's on, and I would not be afraid to go. I would love to go toe to toe with Aaron Goldhammer because he fucking rips people off left and right. Literally today, they're talking about the Cavs. He goes, I got a big problem with Evan Mobley. Why does he pump fake the way that he does? I noticed last night watching the game, he pump faked. Stole it directly from Greg Anthony. Greg Anthony said that during the broadcast. I heard it. Hammer took the story or the
he doesn't think anybody else watches the game.
100%. He really tried to make it his own. Did not once say, oh, I heard the announcers talking about this. He just straight up goes, I noticed that he pump fakes. Like, dude, Greg Anthony called him out on that, you piece of shit. How do you just rip somebody's stuff off? I am the first to give credit to somebody else that had a take. If I took it from somebody and I'm like, hey, that's a good point, I'll say, I heard this guy say on the radio, because I'm not going to try to steal somebody's fucking material. As a huge comedy fan, that's the number one thing that I respect, is not stealing anybody else's shit. 850, not afraid of it. Not at all. So yeah, but hey, if you want to hire me,
sources, like you're writing a story, you're writing a book, cite your sources, no plagiarism.
Yeah, I'm 100%. I try to do that. If I steal, if not even steal, but if I hear an idea or I heard somebody make a statement, I go, that's a good point. I heard this guy say it. I'm not afraid to give somebody credit. 850, apparently, I don't know, maybe it's in their contract. If you want to give me a call, 850, and sign me to a deal and let me come work for you, I'll look at that contract, and if that's what I have to do, I'll fucking plagiarize as much as I have to.
I'll just repeat word for word what someone said the night before during the broadcast.
Happy to do it. But yeah, so anyway, sorry, I went on a little tangent there. Where's Tim when you need him to tell me squirrel? What were your surprise picks of the draft from any team?
I mean, there's a couple. I mean, obviously,
I think the number one is going to be we're on the same page.
Yeah,
Michael Penix.
Sure. Yeah, I don't understand it. I just don't get it. That one threw me for a loop. I think my second one has to be the tight end that went to Vegas.
Brock Bowers, tight end out of Georgia.
That one confused me a little bit too. Like, I get it, he's a great player, but not at that pick and not to that team. I don't think, I just didn't make sense to me. Those are probably my two biggest ones that kind of threw me for a loop, though. But I think Atlanta, can we just say a team? I don't know what the hell Atlanta was doing for any other draft picks, because I think some of their drafts, I mean, outside of Penix, the rest of their draft didn't make fucking sense either. So
yeah, what the hell Atlanta was thinking. They're in a super soft division. They have one of the easiest schedules in football.
Yeah.
And they have Kirk Cousins signed to a huge contract. So they realistically should win the division next year. Like it should be Atlanta's division to lose. Will they go anywhere in the playoffs? Probably not.
And did you
they
see
did not do themselves any favor.
They tried to sign that quarterback off the waivers too. So they drafted Penix, signed Kirk Cousins, drafted Penix, and tried to sign that quarterback off the waivers. That got picked up by another team, but tried to put in for a waiver on him. I don't get it. I
have no fucking idea what they're doing. I truly did not understand the Penix pick. Again, as we talked about before the draft started, I was telling people, this is the last year of the draft being affected by COVID. So what happened with COVID is they let players stay an extra year. And what they would do is they would have the players, they could, had an extra year of eligibility or whatever. So these guys are coming out of the NFL older than ever, or into the NFL older than ever out of college football. And you had a guy like Michael Penix, who I believe is like 24, 25 years old, which is old as fuck when you're getting drafted. Most draft picks, especially the Browns, Andrew Berry's philosophy is go young. If there's a guy that's over the age of 21, you could almost cross him off the Browns board. Like they try to get guys that young. And that's a good way to do it. In the NFL, it stands for not for long. I don't want to draft a guy that's 24 years old that's going to be, washed up at 30. Right. I'll take a guy that's 20, 21, whatever. So you have Michael Penix, who's old as fuck, who's coming in for exactly, Adam. If Atlanta only signed Cousins for 2 years, that makes sense. But you signed him to 4 years, fully guaranteed contract. Michael Penix is now on a 5-year contract. So maybe they're trying like the Jordan Love situation with Green Bay, which again would make sense if Michael Penix was not 25 years old. Like if you got a guy that's 20 and you took a flyer on him, or 21, whatever, okay, kind of makes sense. But 24 or 25, I'd have to look up his age. I forgot. I could be mistaken. Maybe he's a little bit younger, but still.
What this does to Cousins, right? Because he left Minnesota because they came to him and said, we're drafting a quarterback for the future. And Cousins probably wasn't a huge fan of that, right? So now you go there and you're probably not told at all that they're drafting a quarterback, which I think it came out that they said they never told him. Or talk to him about it, and then they do this. So now you're breaking a trust with the guy you just invested 4 years into.
Well, I think the difference there is
the funniest thing I saw that draft night was the video of, I think, is it Arthur Smith coming down talking to the GM, and like you see the GM trying to, like, you can see body language trying to like explain away what he did, because the owner's like
makes sense because of this, because of that. And the thing with Cousins in Minnesota is, at least my perspective, is Minnesota they were not going to offer him a 4-year contract. They were not going to offer him a guaranteed contract. And they told him, we're going to get another quarterback. So there we go. In Minnesota, he definitely would have had a shadow, or to look, one eye in the back of his head. In Atlanta, they gave him the keys to the car. So drafting Penix, they're like, hey, this guy's going to be sitting behind you. You have nothing to worry about. So that one's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Minnesota would have been if he throws one interception, the fan base is going to be like, bring in bench Kirk Cousins. We want the new guy. In Atlanta, I don't think it's going to get that bad, because
it's just bad taste. Plus, you wasted that pick. You could have gotten.
That's the other thing too. You have a top 10 draft pick. You hope to never draft in the top 10 again for a long time. You're expecting that you got Kirk Cousins. Your next step is to try to get a championship. You want to be a perennial playoff team, and you draft a potential franchise quarterback for 5 years down the road. I don't get it.
No, wasted pick. I mean,
and it wasn't like if they had the number 1 overall pick and you're getting like the hands down, like, I don't agree that it was Caleb Williams, but let's just say the general consensus was Caleb Williams is the best player. If you're getting a guy like that, okay, I understand. You drafted yourself what you think is your franchise quarterback of the future. Michael Penix, like, there were people that didn't even think he'd go in the first round. He was possibly going to be like a 20th something overall pick. I've seen him all over the board.
That high.
Huh?
He's probably shocked that he got drafted that high.
I couldn't believe it. I honestly was like,
rang and said it has to be a wrong number.
I think I had him going like 13 to Oakland or Vegas, whatever. But no, going to fucking top 10 to Atlanta, a team that just got a quarterback. That was the biggest shocking fucking pick I've ever seen. One of the biggest ones in NFL history. Another one for me, I'm with you on Brock Bowers. That was a questionable pick. I didn't understand that one for Oakland. Or for the Raiders. I keep calling them Oakland, Las Vegas, whatever gives a fuck.
Yeah, Las Vegas, yeah.
But their pick kind of made me think of the Jets, because the Jets traded back from 10 to 11 to let the Vikings trade up to take J.J. McCarthy, which was a bad pick. And the Jets moved back to 11, where I thought for sure they would take Brock Bowers. They took Olu Fashanu from Penn State, the offensive tackle, which is a good draft pick. If you don't have Aaron Rodgers, you have a 40-something-year-old quarterback. Your window to win is right now, and you draft what will maybe be your starting left tackle next year. Why not get a guy that Aaron Rodgers can throw to today? You should have Brock Bowers. Their wide receiver room is pure garbage. They have Garrett Wilson and nothing else. Their tight ends suck. Brock Bowers would have been a nice piece for Aaron Rodgers to throw to.
Right.
Instead, you draft a tackle who probably won't get playing time until next year or might switch with somebody that gets benched, whatever. But you didn't draft a starting player. And you have a small, tiny window for a Super Bowl with a 40-something-year-old quarterback with a GM and a head coach that have to be on the hot seat. They've been nothing but garbage since they've been in New York. So how do you justify that pick? That's a weird one for me.
Yeah.
The J.J. McCarthy pick, kudos to the Vikings for being that happy about taking a guy who's a game manager, but I don't like J.J. McCarthy. I've been very open about that. I do not see a special quarterback in that guy. Most of his highlight reel are better catches than throws because he makes some bad decisions. So I don't like the McCarthy pick. I don't think he's going to be good in the NFL. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I rarely am. I'm sticking with J.J. McCarthy stinks. I know Adam was all pumped up about that pick. I think J.J. McCarthy is not very good. It has nothing to do with Michigan. I think that's just my eyes. I didn't like most of the quarterbacks coming out of this draft class. So J.J. McCarthy definitely didn't win me over. And then another kind of surprising pick that I had, I guess it was surprising in the way that it happened. You have the Buffalo Bills, who traded Stephon Diggs, their number one wide receiver. Their wide receiver room is pure trash. So what did the Buffalo Bills do? They let Kansas City trade up to their spot to draft a wide receiver.
Yeah.
The same Kansas City team that continuously beats the Buffalo Bills, that the Buffalo Bills cannot get past, they let them add the fastest player in the draft on offense.
On the team where speed is needed and that offense is all speed, like you just gave them another weapon.
You just opened up Travis Kelce for another 5 yards a catch.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me.
And Buffalo just sat back, and Buffalo's like, no, we're good. We're happy with our team.
Probably like, what the fuck?
I feel bad. I mean, I want to root for Buffalo because of their heartbreak and how they're, similar to Cleveland. So, once the Browns get eliminated, I kind of pull for Buffalo. Like, I don't mind them. But then they do shit like this, and then I'm like, this is why you continuously suck. You make horrible fucking decisions. So, didn't understand that one. Good move by the Chiefs. That's why the Chiefs are a dynasty. The Chiefs just continue to win. Initially, you look at that pick and you're like, well, they have Rashee Rice, they have Hollywood Brown, they have Travis Kelce. How many wide receivers do they need? And then Rashee Rice gets in more trouble. I don't know if you saw that, but he
what an idiot,
got in that car accident a few weeks ago, and he had to turn himself into the police for driving recklessly. They found guns in the car, I guess, shit like that. He then follows it up by getting in a fight at a nightclub, and now the police are after him. So
is this Henry Ruggs all over again? What's going on here?
No, Henry Ruggs really wasn't that bad until he killed a person. He just did one thing. Rashee Rice is just continuously fucking up to the point where they're going to have to release him. So not a good look there for him to come in and your year one, you win a Super Bowl, you have a great year, and you decide to fuck it all. Or was it year two? I think he was in his second year. I don't remember.
Second year, I think.
No, Sky Moore was in his second year. I don't remember. Either way. Rashee Rice was in year one or year two.
So many non-big receiver names, it just all blends together.
As long as they have Patrick Mahomes, they're fine. And then now if you're Buffalo, you're fucking stupid, and you let them get Xavier Worthy, the wide receiver out of Texas. Again, what the fuck are you thinking, Buffalo? That's pretty much all I had for the draft. Really quickly, I just wanted to we could touch on the Caitlin Clark thing next week, I guess. Really wasn't that big of a deal. Maybe I'll have George pull the audio, so that would make that story a little bit better.
It was more creepy than anything, and I think
it was just a bad joke. The guy was just trying to be funny, and that was it. And then he gets suspended for 2 weeks. For those of you that don't know, we'll talk about it. A reporter from the Indianapolis Star, he said, "Hey, Devin, what's up, man? This isn't even the best it's going to be. This is a makeshift thing because our current producer is away. So he just set this up for us to get us going."
Yeah.
I still want to work on my background. That's my bookshelf back there with all those masks that Tara bought and stuff. I want to put some sports things on there so it looks like I'm doing a sports show, because this room in my office, I don't have any sports memorabilia. So
Space is a receiver. He plays sports. He's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, they catch a lot of people. I guess that helps. That's something. I got an autographed Travis Barker poster. I've got like fucking horror movie stuff and a Blink-182 thing and Terrace plants in the corner. I got a fan behind me that I didn't even bother to move because I was too lazy today.
The plants bring the room together, though, so it's okay.
No, I hate them. I wish they were all gone. I don't want them in my house, but that's just me. But yeah, so long story short, a reporter from the Indianapolis Star, he looked at Caitlin Clark and he did this. Caitlin Clark's thing is she does like a heart symbol to her family, and that's like her little thing. So he did that to her as like a joke. And she was like, "Oh, do you like that?" She's like, "I do that to my family, after every game. That's just my thing." And he just joked and he said, if you do that with me, we're going to be good. This is going to be a good friendship or something like that. that was it. Everyone kind of laughed, and he was just kind of joking. Didn't think much of it. And the Indianapolis Star they've now suspended him for 2 weeks from,
and they pulled him off of covering
and he will
the.
not be covering the Indiana Fever for the season or whatever. So because he said that, like, are you fucking kidding me? We're that PC as a culture, and we'll dive more into that next week or next episode. We'll play the
Caitlin
clip,
Clark's
but
got that mafia pull, man. Like she's
dude,
just
it's
like,
crazy to me
I
that
want him,
like
I want him gone. Yes, ma'am,
she
gone.
whacked a reporter in her first press conference. Pretty impressive. Speaking of PC though, or what's not PC, that gets us to our just the tip. I will let Kyle go first because we're going to
Since
talk a little bit of
yours is, and I was gonna take the roast, but I'll take. I just started watching this show and it's on Disney Plus. But it's X-Men '97, and it brings back the memories of watching this cartoon when I was a kid. But it's a whole new series, right? So like it's
Sure.
kind of made in the. I'm sure you've seen it or whatever, not seen it, but you probably saw ads for it. It's produced and made in the way of what old cartoons look like back when they used to have the original X-Men series on TV for kids to watch back in like '92.
Yeah, back when there were like no black cartoon characters because you didn't have to be
Exactly.
PC.
This is very white.
Yeah.
Yeah, very white. But so they did it and designed it in the way of that with obviously a whole new storyline. And they brought back a lot of the original people who played these people in the cartoon, which is kind of cool. I didn't think anything much of it, but I watched the first episode and then I watched the second. I was like, okay, this is actually really good. So I'll continue watching. I think they release an episode every week, kind of like they always do on Disney Plus. But if you're nostalgic and you want to watch something like that, I recommend. It's an animated cartoon series, but it kind of
I've
brings
heard nothing but good things, so
yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna check it
really
out.
good. It's really good. I recommend people do it. So
Devin, I would reach out to him, but he's actually a pretty big name. I forgot it off the top of my head. I heard it a million times today, but he's actually a pretty big reporter. Like he gets some public pull, or I'm sorry, some national pull.
Doyle, I think his name was.
Yeah, he covers the Colts and stuff. I've seen him on like some pretty big places that I read. But hey, I mean, can't hurt to reach out. But I'm guessing he's going to have some bigger shows to be on this week to talk about the scandal, if you will, if you want to call it a scandal. I don't really know what you want to call it. But that gets me to my tip of the week. For the record, I don't know how this is going to go because George set all this show up and supposedly was going to have it from 7 to 9. And at 9 o'clock, since we don't have an actual producer, the show might just cut out. So I got to be kind of quick here. So just a fair warning to everybody that if the show does cut out at 9 o'clock on the nose, it's because of this setup. This is our first time doing one of these shows. So just bear with us. But my tip of the week is, or my just the tip is the Tom Brady roast that you can find on Netflix. It debuted on Sunday Night Live, which was kind of cool, but I don't really like live roasts. I feel like, and I heard this was, again, I give credit to people when credit is due, to one of the best roasters of all time, Anthony Jeselnik. He talked about the roast and he basically said, A, he's glad he wasn't there. Yeah, Zolt's there, but again, I don't know if it's just going to shut off. So hopefully we'll see. But Anthony Jeselnik is one of the best roasters of all time. And he said, A, he wanted nothing to do with that one. And B, he said live roasts like that are terrible because they leave so much in. Like there were so many jokes that were duds that you just had to sit through, so many awkward moments of guys like stumbling over words where normally they would just edit that out so it wouldn't look that bad. So I agree with them on that. There were a lot of times that got kind of uncomfortable because guys just weren't funny. Their jokes weren't very good, or
Well,
they were
if you cut out the entire NFL player thing, then I think it's fine.
correct. That
Yeah.
was such a fucking buzzkill. You have a
Yeah.
professional roasting comedian come up, do a great job, absolutely kill. Jeff
Yeah.
Ross, Nikki Glazer, Andrew Schultz even had a really good set. Tony Hinchcliffe was fucking fantastic.
Dude,
And then
Tony had one of the best jokes of the night.
And then you let Randy Moss come up. You let Kim Kardashian come up. You let Julian Edelman wasn't bad. You have Bill Belichick, which was cool. Peyton Manning. Like there were way too many fucking people.
Yeah.
Also, my biggest issue with the thing, I'm not a fan of his, so it's just maybe this is just sour grapes, but I thought Kevin Hart fucking sucked as the host. I think he held up the show. I don't think he had any good jokes. Like for me, my biggest issue with Kevin Hart is that he doesn't write his own material. He was always known, like when he got really big, he had writers, so he could do a show. He could put out a new special every year, and everyone loved it. And he's doing stadium tours and shit like that. He wasn't writing his own shit. He's a great performer. Don't get me wrong. But when he had to think on the spot on the at the roast, he was not funny at all. When he was trying to take what somebody said and like make a joke out of it, he couldn't do it. He just repeated what they said and laughed, and he would just be like, "Oh, that was a really good joke," and then he would just repeat it. And I'm like, "What the hell?" Eli was really funny when he tweeted that. He's like, "I wasn't invited to the roast," or he said something like, "I didn't want to be at the Tom Brady roast because I didn't want to roast him for a third time."
Hey, what's up, Larry? That was hilarious.
Kevin Hart just wasn't funny. Every time he'd look at Tom Brady and just go, "Fuck you, Tom!" Like that was his funniest thing. Like he thought of. Like that was just embarrassing.
I thought it was. I thought he did okay. I mean, it's just Kevin Hart, though, right? He's just there to kind of bring things together. But I mean, it was all right. I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, Dane Cook came out and actually backed him. Dane Cook came out and said he did it.
Dane Cook's a kiss ass. Dane Cook doesn't know roast. He doesn't roast people.
He's
never been on a roast in his life.
Stand.
If you know who I didn't see come out and praise him, Anthony Jeselnik. These good roasters. Nobody came out and defended Kevin Hart because I think all those guys found him annoying.
Obviously, Jeselnik on there, right? I'm sure he was probably asked. He wanted nothing to do with it.
What's up, Larry? Glad. Thanks for joining us, man. We are back. We're going to be doing this again every 2 weeks for the off season. When the regular season starts up, we'll be back weekly.
I would have liked to have seen Shane Gillis get a chance. I think Shane probably would have done well roasting someone. I think he's pretty quick when it comes to roasting people and quick on his feet. I think he would have been pretty good at it, though. But like the crazy thing to me, though, not to go too winded here, but like Nikki Glazer was on Howard Stern, right? And she talked about the fact that like her and Jeff Ross and all the other comedians worked all that shit out like for like the last 30 and 60 days, you know, like went around and worked at different comedian shows and got their stuff perfect, right? Which is great. And you can tell, but then you ruin it by getting these NFL players up there to do it. They should have just had like one or two, you know, Elam and whatever. I mean, Edelman and whatever else come up and do it would have been perfect and just be done with it, right? But you ruined it by having some of these people who cannot tell a joke. Randy Moss
was very unfunny.
Horrible.
Gronk, I forgot. Gronk got annoying. They should have cut those guys down to like 3 minutes.
He was tanked because he was getting drunker, and I think that was hilarious.
But he still should have only had like 2 minutes. They shouldn't have given him that much time. And yeah, Brian, Tony was fucking awesome. Tony Hinchcliffe, I think, was the best one. Him and Nikki Glazer were great.
What's funny is like Dane Cook was sitting next. I don't know if you saw his post, but
he was right next to Robert Kraft. Yeah, he's friends with them because he's a big Patriots guy.
Well, he was sitting next to like the prompter, right? And he said that when Gronk was up, Gronk was not going off the prompter. Like his jokes were laid out, but then the prompter would stop. And like, because Gronk went on a tangent, he goes, Gronk had a filler of like 10 extra minutes because he wasn't supposed to be reading what he's supposed to read. And he goes,
that's why it being live sucked because they could have been like, no, we're editing all that out. That was fucking embarrassing.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a buzzkill. You have these funny ass comedians, and then all of a sudden it hits a roadblock with some fucking NFL guy. And then overall, though, it was fucking great. It was really funny. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
What was your best joke of the night, you think?
Probably. Oh, also, I could have done without the Tom Segura, Bert Kreischer thing. That wasn't very funny to me.
It was kind of funny just because
it had its moments. Like I saw where they were going, but I just didn't think the jokes landed that well. I don't know. My favorite joke was probably the one from Tony Hinchcliffe where he said Bert Kreischer looks like Tiger King, ate at Burger King. And he said his whose liver looks like Martin Luther King that got beat by Rodney King, like all those King jokes. That was a fucking
back
fantastic joke. Hinchcliffe killed. That was probably my favorite joke of the night. I'd have to go back and rewatch it because she was early. So Nikki Glazer had some really funny ones that had me laughing, but I don't remember them off the top of my head.
Just the delivery on them, right? It's just
she's great. She's been a really good roaster for a long time.
She's got a special coming out too on HBO, I think next week.
Yeah.
By the way, George said he's there. Just let him know. Oh, Zolf's there. So
Zolf, okay. I just saw that too.
We're almost done. But no, I would say that whatchamacallit, do you think that when Brady stood up and told Jeff Ross, don't say that shit again, do you think he was being serious? Do you think it was all part of it?
Oh, that was serious. That's a situation where if it weren't on live TV, they would have edited that.
Yeah.
Because did you notice no one else made a massage joke?
I've never seen anybody get upset before like that. But you're saying that Robert Kraft jokes are off the table, but we
just the massage ones.
We can talk about your wife getting pounded by the jiu-jitsu guy. Come on now.
Yep, because we're in such a sensitive time where there's so many people that are getting accused of sex trafficking and pedophilia and things like that, and all this shit. That I think that one they took that off the table. Yeah, that was a good one. I forgot about that one, Brian. But dude, there were so many good jokes. I want to go back and rewatch it now that I know I can because it's not live anymore.
That one that Tony Hinchcliffe, that was one of my favorite. The other one was when Nikki looked at Tom and said, "It must suck to lose your wife to a guy who can kick your ass while he's eating hers," or something like that.
There were a lot of really good jokes about the jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
Overall, it was really cool. I like it. I'm with you. I hope they keep doing them. I love a roast. I find myself going back and watching the Comedy Central roast still to this day all the time. just to see Jeselnik, to see, may he rest in peace, Greg Giraldo, one of the best roast comics of all time. He was fucking great till he OD'd. So I love roast. I hope Netflix keeps doing it, but the only thing is it's going to be hard to keep setting that bar. You got Tom Brady on your first one. Like, who's going to be your next guy that you roast? You have to get somebody that good, or else people are going to be like, huh.
Who would be a good one to follow Brady? I wonder. Like,
the other good thing though is you could do any like genre. You could do one of the biggest musicians in the world. You could do one of the biggest movie stars. Yeah, whomever. There's so many people you could do. Like, that's the one good thing that I hope this opened up, that it doesn't have to just be sports. I don't just need a sports guy every year. Like Comedy Central used to do it. They did Donald Trump. They did Pam Anderson. They did how do you do, George? Did they win? They did Charlie Sheen when he was huge. They did Justin Bieber. Like, they had some Roseanne. They had some good people, and they were all over the map. They were actors, musicians, whatever. Rich guys with fake hair. You could do whoever you wanted. There were so many different options. Roast of Joe Biden. Dude, that's every day on Twitter or social media. That's just a given for him. And he wouldn't even know if he was there.
Yeah, he wouldn't know what the joke was about. His reaction would be so slow. No, I think it's more so the test. The other thing that was kind of more into it was the test of Netflix's ability for live events, right? And I don't know about
that was a prep for the Tyson Paul
Mike
fight.
Tyson one for sure. I don't know about you, but I did have a little bit of like.
Sorry to hear that, George. Hey, tell him to get him tomorrow. Shake it off.
There was parts where it went from HD to like 720 for a couple minutes. Like, it didn't hold high def throughout. There was a couple drop moments, I think, but I think it kind of not froze, but it buffered one time, and that was it. I don't know if that was everywhere, if it was Netflix or just my internet, but
so did you start it at right at 8:00?
Right at, yeah, we came in with like a minute down, like a 2-minute countdown going into it, right? And I know
I was a little late. I forgot it started, so we turned on Netflix to watch The Circle. And it's like 8:30, and right away I see Tom Brady roast happening live, and I was like, "Sorry, Tara, fuck The Circle." Click, put on the roast right away, and we watched that. So I was a little behind everybody, and then we had to stop and give Teddy a bath and shit like that. So I didn't watch it live, so mine never buffered or anything like that. So that might have just been something with the live feed, but I wasn't watching it on the live feed.
Yeah, that's what
I'm roast thinking. Of LeBron. No, that wouldn't be that funny because LeBron's not. He doesn't take criticism that well. And I think there's not really that many jokes. He doesn't have like a great history. Like, what are people going to say? Like, oh, you flopped and Jordan has more rings. Like, I don't know. Brady's got some funny shit going on in his life. LeBron's pretty private. There's really not a whole lot of news about him.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be curious to see what they do next.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the list is endless. They could go after anybody. Netflix is huge. They pulled in a ton of viewers for this. They pulled in a ton of money.
I wonder what they paid everyone. I'm curious what they paid people to come on there. I would love to get behind the scenes there.
I'm sure it'll come out. I would hope. I would like to know that too, to know where all the money goes when they upcharge every year. You go, oh, that makes sense. You got to pay these guys.
Right.
No, it was pretty good. I really enjoyed the roast though. So if you get a chance, it's really long. I mean, roast should not go for 3 hours. Eventually it's like, God damn, is this ever going to end? $25 million so far. No shit. Not bad. I figured it would come out, so that's good that Steve saw that. But no, that roast was awesome. Highly recommend checking it out. Again, just me personally, can't go wrong. You could really save yourself a lot of time if you fast forward every time Kevin Hart walks up to the mic, and then pretty much every time any of the athletes.
Who would be your ideal host then? Who's your ideal host next time?
I mean, it should have been Jeff Ross. Jeff Ross should be the host. He's the roast master. They should have let him host, and then in between every set, he could tell a couple jokes, and that keeps everything flowing, gets everybody back to laughing, instead of Kevin Hart just going up there and going, Jesus Christ, Nikki, she said this, and he just repeats a joke, and then he laughs and just goes, that was good. Like, I don't need that. What are you, the fucking old puppets from the Muppets sitting in the theater? Like, I don't need your criticism live during the show. You're the fucking host. I don't want you just laughing and telling me what they said. And then just going, Jesus Christ, fuck you, Tom. That got old fast as fuck. I hated it. I literally wanted to punch my TV every time he fucking said it. Kevin Hart almost ruined that roast for me. That's how annoying I found him. Oh, I forgot who said it, but when someone said Kevin Hart is the Rock's bottom or something like that, or the Rock bottom or something, whatever the joke was, I forgot how they worded it, but that was a really, like, any joke about Kevin Hart was really funny to me.
Yeah, I think so. I forget who said that one, and then Nikki was like, "Yeah, he's 150 pounds, but 155 once The Rock finishes."
Yeah, there's so many good jokes about that. Anytime you can make fun of Kevin Hart, I'm all for it. I found him very annoying, but that's just me. That's just me. But that's it. Zolt, we'll let you get out of here. Appreciate you staying on a little extra. We didn't want to go
Absolutely.
too long over, even though we got the late start, but we got everything pretty much we wanted to. Next time we're here, we'll go into we'll dive more. I had a full list of paper, but we got to most of it. We'll talk about it another time. Little Guardians talk next time. Couldn't get it all in today, but again, the season's long. It just started. It's only May. We have plenty of time. So we'll talk to you guys in about 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, we only do the show on Wednesdays. So we'll go from there. Got anything, Kyle?
I got nothing. I'll have some stories from next weekend at the PGA. So I'll have a little more excitement in my life from that point. So we'll see what happens.
Sounds good. All right, everybody. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Cleveland, that was for you.